Chapter 1225. The surrounding onlookers were also stunned, and then burst into laughter. To be able to shake the dice out of the dice cup was not something an ordinary person could do. Lu Feng was very embarrassed, and it was not clear whether he was too nervous or too excited. He lowered his head to look for the dice, and sure enough, there was a dice lying there quietly by his feet. He did not want to cheat by changing the dice with mercury, because his skills were not good enough to control the dice while shaking the dice cup. Putting the dice back into the dice cup, Lu Feng shook it again, but this time his movements were much smoother. Accompanied by the sound of the dice rolling in the dice cup, he stared at Zhang Xiaobao's eyes, as if he wanted to exert mental pressure on Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao smiled, squinted his eyes, and did not move at all. Lu Feng shook the dice for a while, and then slammed the dice cup on the table. With a bang, and the sound of a few dice rolling, it returned to silence. Is it big? Or is it small? Lu Feng still stared at Zhang Xiaobao's eyes, gritted his teeth, and squeezed out a few words from his lips. Zhang Xiaobao pointed at Lu Feng's hand that was still on the dice cup, indicating that he should move his hand away. Someone else had to open the dice cup, otherwise, it was easy for the person who shook the dice to touch the dice when opening the cup. When Lu Feng moved his hand away, the aura that he had just gathered suddenly dissipated. The people around them all looked at Zhang Xiaobao. The bet involved a lot of money, and there were also 2 precious pearls. One wrong word, and they would lose half of the chance to win. Wang Wan was also very curious about Zhang Xiaobao's knowledge of the dice. She wanted to know how much ability Zhang Xiaobao, who had lived with her for more than 10 years, had not shown her. Sometimes, deciphering one's own man's secrets was also a kind of pleasure. Especially when one's own man knew more, the more interesting it would be to decipher his secrets. Occasionally, the little secrets and mysteries of both parties could add a lot of stability to their family life if dealt with properly. Zhang Xiaobao chuckled and said to Lu Feng, "If it were a normal rule, you would be able to take it all. It's actually 4, 5, and 6. Do you think it should be big or small?" "Wow, for real?" Xiao Bei rested his head on his brother's shoulder, and asked excitedly when he heard his brother say the number. The other people around him were also shocked. In the gambling house, for gamblers, rolling out the dice points they wanted was a skill. This skill was very useful in gambling. However, the most useful thing was the ability to hear the number of dice that others rolled. With this ability, one could almost become the god of gamblers. As long as one was careful and did not reveal it easily, one could win a certain amount of money in the gambling house every day, and the gambling house would not care about one's actions. Unless one won too much and was too conspicuous, the gambling house would discuss with one and ask one not to come to the gambling house in the future. There were different opinions about the bottom line of this amount. Some said it was 10 strings of coins, some said it was 1 string of coins, but even the lowest one said it was 1 string of coins. One could earn 29 strings of coins or 30 strings of coins a month. They did not have to do anything else. Every day, they would come to the gambling house, take the money, and go home to give it to their wife and children. It was enough for their family to live well. Of course, those who thought so were all gamblers. They thought very well, but if they could really hear the number of dice one day, the result would not be what they imagined. Otherwise, if they really had a sense of responsibility for their family, they would not continue to stay in the gambling house. Instead, they would look for work outside. Even if they had to work hard to earn the hard-earned money, their family could live a good life. The gamblers were amazed for a while. One of them asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Little brother, can I open the dice cup?" He said what others wanted to say. Whether he had the ability to hear the dice still needed to be verified. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and nodded, indicating that the person who spoke could do it. The person carefully put his hand on the dice cup, and used his fingers to slowly raise the dice cup. Before it was completely raised, someone had already exclaimed, 456 for 56, it really is 4566. Little brother, you are amazing. Good skill. Someone praised loudly. He was about to lie down and watch. After the dice cup was completely raised, the 3 dice were not close together. There was a little distance between them. Obviously, it was the result of them colliding with each other. At this moment, Lu Feng also saw the number he had rolled. 456 was a very big number, and in some rules it could be taken all. However, at this moment, he did not have the slightest happiness of taking all others. He almost could not believe that he had rolled it, and that his opponent had recognized it. You are confused, right? Lu Feng wanted to get an answer from Zhang Xiaobao, an answer that could restore his confidence. Zhang Xiaobao still smiled and nodded. Yes, I am confused. My luck is good. Now it's my turn. It's your turn. Zhang Xiaobao reached out his hand and took the cup from someone. Because he rolled up his sleeves, he looked very proper when others looked at him. His pair of white hands also made many people jealous. They felt that they shouldn't be on a man's body. How could these white and tender hands protect his own family? If his child and wife were bullied, with his past, what could he do other than be beaten? Those who had such thoughts clearly did not know Zhang Xiaobao's fighting strength, and did not guess his identity. The dealer in charge of a gambling table in the gambling house looked at Zhang Xiaobao with a face full of admiration. Compared to Xiaobei and the other 9 children, his admiration was even greater. Even his eyes were beginning to develop in a cute way. This is a pair of hands that kills without spilling blood. The hands that have spilled blood are also very fair. The dealer looked at Zhang Xiaobao's hands, then at Wei Wei's, and then at Wang Wan's hands. He secretly compared them and felt that he could not tell who had killed more people. In any case, his hands were very beautiful. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao's hand that was holding the dice cup moved. He did not let the mouth of the cup face the dice horizontally like ordinary people. Instead, he directly put the cup vertically close to one of the dice. Suddenly, Wei Wei's hand moved, and one of the dice on the table disappeared. The sound of the dice rolling came from the cup. Then, with another move, the second dice also went in. Just like that, 3 dice went in one after another. After a few clattering sounds, Zhang Xiaobao gently put the dice cup on the table. He did not do any fancy movements like 3 circles left, 3 circles right, or twisting his neck, or twisting his butt, unless he was asked to shoot a movie about the god of gamblers. As the dice cup fell, the surroundings fell silent. Everyone looked at Lu Feng, waiting for his answer. Lu Feng was very nervous. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and said with a trembling voice, 552 small. F*CKU, are you lying to a fool? Before Zhang Xiaobao could say anything, the person who opened the dice cup for him scolded first. Is it big or small? You said 552, and that's small? Are you trying to block both sides? After he shouted, the people around him shouted as well. For a moment, the silent atmosphere was broken. Lu Feng rubbed his sweaty hands on his body and did not let go. He just grabbed his clothes like that. His eyes started to turn red, sweat seeped out of his forehead, and his breathing became rapid. He opened his mouth and said with all his strength, Yes, 332 small. Open the cup. I'll do it. It's the person who helped open the cup earlier. This time his movements were faster. With a whoosh he grabbed the dice cup, revealing the 3 dice inside. Pairs of eyes widened, and there was a series of gasps. How is that possible? The dealer murmured. There were still 3 dice on the table, but the difference was that the 3 dice were not arranged on the table at the same time. Instead, they were arranged one by one. From the dealer's point of view, he could see 2 sides of the dice. From top to bottom, the numbers on both sides of the dice were the same. This showed that the numbers on the dice were the same. For a person who played dice, he did not need to think too much to know that the number on the dice was 1. The small red circle proved the identity of the dice. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the person who opened the cup took down the 2 dice on the table and placed them on the side. 3 dice, a total of 3 points. Great, I guessed right. It's small, isn't it? We agreed when we were gambling. Otherwise, my 4, 5, 6 and so on would have taken all of them, right? 3-1 doesn't count as winning all of them. Lu Feng cheered happily. His eyes looked around, waiting for the others to prove it for him. The others first sighed at Lu Feng's luck. He actually got half of the dice right, but at the same time, they felt sad for him. Even if you got it right once, what was the use? It was impossible for you to get it right every time. The opponent you met was like the god of gamblers. He was good at dice shaking and dice listening. If he wanted to win, he just had to play a few more rounds. Yes, it's considered small. Shall we continue? Or do you want to go first? Zhang Xiaobao did not show any signs of depression, and said calmly, Ugh. Lu Feng, who was happy just now, choked. When he came back to his senses, he also realized that something was wrong. Very wrong. Could he continue to be confused? Let's call it a draw. I don't want to gamble anymore, Lu Feng suggested. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. No, there is no such rule at the gambling table. When two people gamble, how can there not be a winner? A single round can be called a draw, but there must be a winner in the end. If you want to break the rules, just admit defeat, and the thing will belong to me. That's right, that's right. You didn't look like this when you were yelling at me just now. Didn't you say that a god would give you something? Go ask the god for it. What's wrong with losing once? Xiaobei chimed in at the right time. Her cute appearance and age made it easy for others to sympathize with her and see her as a weakling. Everyone felt that Lu Feng did not do things properly. When he was bullying the child just now, he was so arrogant. Now that the child's brother came to support him, he shrank back? Continue gambling. Hurry up, or you'll go out lying down. Someone began to threaten Lu Feng. Lu Feng seemed to know that he had to lose all his money and pearls today. He gritted his teeth and nodded, continuing to gamble with Zhang Xiaobao. Sure enough, he knew how to use luck. After 4 consecutive rounds, Lu Feng finally guessed wrong. He saw that his opponent rolled all kinds of leopards every time, and had completely lost his confidence. Lu Feng put down all his belongings. His face was pale, but then he put on a look of indifference and said, Isn't it just this little money? It doesn't matter. After saying this, he left. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded and said to Xiaobei and the others, Come, follow me. Take the pearls. Brother will go back later. The group also left the gambling house at the same time. Chapter 12:26. Following their sister, Xiaobei and the others were not in the mood to stroll around. They were all thinking about the situation when their brother was gambling with others and felt very satisfied. Xiaobei didn't know that listening to dice was more difficult than shaking dice. He grabbed the dice cup with his small hand and shook it. He asked his sister, How do you roll 3 dice when you put them in one by one? It's like a tall house. There's a ladder on one side of the wall, and 3 people are going in. The first person goes to the ladder first, the second person continues to go up the ladder, and the third person stands at the bottom. All you have to do is stick the 3 dice together one after the other, and that's it. Wang Wan explained with a smile. She also understood that the effect of shaking dice was different from understanding the principle. When we go back, I'll also find a dice cup to practice. Xiaobei looked eager to try. He felt that he could quickly master this skill with his intelligence. Wang Wan didn't stop him. She believed that Xiaobei would lose interest after practicing a few times, especially for dice cups. If it was too light, it would be hard to master, and if it was too heavy, it would be tiring. With his dream of becoming the god of gamblers soon, Xiaobei skipped and walked in front. Just as he was feeling happy, an adult and a little girl about his age walked over from the opposite side of the street. The little girl was also holding a candy figurine in her hand. Obviously, the candy figurine in their hands was not bought at the same place as hers, unless the old man who sold the candy figurines changed places. The little girl's candy figurine was also a little pig. It was very cartoonish, but it was much smaller than the one Xiaobei bought. After seeing it, Xiaobei smiled knowingly. He felt that it was very interesting. However, before he could finish laughing, the little girl's hand naturally reached to the side, and the little pig fell to the ground. Yaya doesn't want a little pig. The little girl's tone was obviously not comparable to Xiaobei's. It was too childish. No, a little pig is not good. Let's go to the front. Daddy will buy you something more fun. The adult pulled the little girl away. Xiaobei was stunned. Seeing that there was no carriage on the road, he ran to the opposite side of the street and picked up the broken little pig on the ground. Only a small half of it was stuck to the bamboo stick. He shook his head regretfully. Malt candy. Brother said that this piece of candy can let an adult live for a day if they are hungry. Let's go. He spent money to buy it. If he wants to throw it away, so be it. Our great Tang doesn't lack food now. Xiao Yuan pulled Xiaobei away. Wait, pick it up. What if it sticks to other people's feet? Xiao Yuan, how many people do you think have bought Darling Candy House's candies and then casually threw them away? Xiaobei squatted down and began to pick up the pieces of Little Pig. He placed them in his palm piece by piece, and then grimaced from the stickiness. Xiao Yuan thought about it, and gave up on the idea of picking them up together with Xiaobei. However, he decided to stick it to himself. There were only a few pieces anyway. He could wash them when the time came and leave his hands behind. Perhaps he could even help to carry the items. So he stood by the side and answered Xiaobei's question. I don't think so. Our candies are very delicious, and the packaging is beautiful. Every candy has its own story. How much determination would it take to throw them away? That's good. Xiao Yuan, where's that light blue handkerchief of yours? I saw a flower bloom on it last time. Let me take a look again. Xiaobei nodded and stood up to join his sister. He then asked Xiao Yuan very casually. Xiao Yuan also answered casually. Yes, I saw it last time too. I just threw it away casually. Also, I feel that if we were to compare based on money, my clothes are more valuable than the candy. Oh. Xiaobei seemed very dejected. His act had been seen through so quickly. It seemed that the people around him were not easy to fool. When he returned to the team, Wang Wan had already taken out a wet towel to wipe his hands. She asked, What's the matter now? Xiaobei's heart aches for a piece of candy. He feels that it can save lives at a critical moment, but he just threw it away casually. It's not good. Xiao Yuan helped to explain. It's okay. Our great Tang has relief stations. If there are really people who don't have enough to eat, they can go to the relief stations. They won't starve to death. The country's food production is enough. Otherwise, your brother and I wouldn't have started a war. Actually, this is something that has existed since ancient times. Those who have more resources have the right to squander them as they wish. Then people will starve to death at their feet. There's no right or wrong, only choice. Because if you help people who are about to starve to death, they might not thank you. They might even rely on you in the future. At the same time, there are many reasons why people will starve to death. Some are because the weather is bad and there is no harvest. Some are because they are unlucky and their food is washed away by the flood or burned by fire. But there are also some because they are lazy and not smart enough. They are too stupid. Wang Wan tried her best to explain in words that Xiaobei and the rest could understand. When it came to food, she wasn't very strict. She didn't require everyone to eat when they were eating. This was because at that time, other than Africa, it wasn't easy to starve people to death. Moreover, it was not that the world did not have enough food in Africa, but that other people would not provide food to them for free. Humanitarian aid was only a small part of it. However, many people occupied Africa through other means. They planted a lot of food on the land they occupied. A portion of it was used for relief, but more was used elsewhere. Then, people in Africa continued to starve to death. It was a very interesting thing. Therefore, Wang Wan, who was used to seeing human nature, did not think about so many things that should not be thought about. However, Wang Wan knew that Zhang Xiaobao was very serious about food. When he was young, he had been starved. Even though the relief station at that time could still take care of some of the relief work, no one liked to go there. There were many restrictions and the food and accommodation were not good. Otherwise, why would everyone stay at home when they went there? This also caused Zhang Xiaobao to be very extreme in some aspects. When Xiaobei heard his sister's words, he still felt that it was a pity. He said sadly, Is it natural selection? As long as they are unlucky and have little ability, many people starve to death every year. When the time comes, those who have the ability and luck to survive will have more and more powerful descendants. It's really too cruel. Wang Wan could not help but laugh. She patted Xiaobei's head and said, Not all of them. After all, humans are different from other animals. If they had been doing that since ancient times, we probably would not have seen the people of today. Humans are powerful because they know how to pity and sympathize with others. Maybe it's because they have a smart brain that makes them feel more pity and sympathy. Maybe it's because of pity and sympathy that people become smarter. That's why humans can use tools. and then unite to compete with other animals for resources. Until now, it has become like this. Then we all say that wolf packs are scary because they are united and know how to divide the work. But what's really scary is humans. Humans are not only united, they know how to divide the work, they also know how to sacrifice. When a wolf in a wolf pack is injured in battle, if they can't keep up with the team, they will be abandoned. If humans are injured in battle, they will be nurtured. This is the similarity and the difference. Wang was very tired from talking. She did not want her younger siblings to become cold, and she did not want them to become kind to the point of foolishness. Therefore, she had to go back and forth to explain. Xiao Bei and the rest listened attentively as they walked. The guards consciously left enough space for them to prevent people from approaching them. After a while, Xiao Bei nodded vigorously and said, "I know. If a wolf in a pack dies, its children won't have a good time. They look very united, but they can't beat a human. If a human's adult dies, its children will be taken care of. A race that doesn't take care of its own children will eventually be swallowed up and wiped out, right?" "That's right. Xiao Bei is really smart." Wang patted Xiao Bei's head again. According to the story, after the main character became very powerful, in order to find a treasure that could make him even more powerful, he went to the grassland mentioned in the story. That place turned into a desert, and the people of the past were all gone. It was said that they were wiped out by other civilizations because the people of the grassland used the law of the jungle. In the beginning, they were very powerful for a period of time, but later on the technology of other civilizations improved. The grassland people did not care about their lives for themselves, while the people of that civilization did it for the group. The selfish nature of the grassland people made them worse as they fought. In the end, they were gone. Xiao Bei had been listening to this story for some time, but he only remembered the plot of the story. Today, he finally understood the philosophy of the story. Wang nodded with relief. She and Zhang Xiaobao worked hard to make up stories for their younger siblings for this purpose. Those stories were full of leveling up elements to attract the younger brothers and sisters to listen carefully. But what really needed to be told to the younger brothers and sisters was a small auxiliary plot that inadvertently appeared in the story, or even a seemingly useless description. Otherwise, if it was just leveling up, and leveling up, it would be purely entertaining. It was superficial but likable, but it could not be used to guide people, let alone children. That kind of writing was not even as good as a school that had appeared in Taiwan before, the Mandarin Duck and Butterfly School. At least, many television series had been based on them. Of course, Wang also knew that the story she and Xiaobao made up for their younger siblings had an age restriction. If it was shown to children under the age of 13, it would be very interesting. If it was shown to people between the ages of 14 and 20, it would be over. They would feel that you were forcing an idea and experience on them. Some of them would even feel that you were too long-winded, and they would not be able to see that you had written a lot of children in the story. They would feel that the story was very childish. However, if it was shown to people older, or even people with children, they would feel that it was very interesting and enlightening. If it was shown to people above the age of 30, they would smile knowingly. Even if there were mistakes in the story, they would be able to understand. Wang's evaluation was based on the fact that people in this era matured earlier. If it was her and Zhang Xiaobao's era, the age would have to be delayed. This was because there were many people who married late and had children late, so people matured later. If you told a school student about politics, economics, human nature, and social philosophy, even if you put it in the story, they would not be willing to listen. What they wanted was for you to be bullied first, and then you would use more powerful methods to bully them back, and so on and so forth. As for the other things, they were not important. That was why it was said that the battle leveling up style and the pastoral leveling up style were different. The audience was different. At present, Wang began to consider whether she should take some time to adjust the story with Xiaobao. She wanted to add a part of the description of the scenery, geography, and mineral knowledge, so that her younger siblings could learn more. Also, there's what the story says. Once Xiao Bei started talking about the story, she could not stop. She began to chatter about the story she had heard and her understanding of the story to the other 8 little fellows. Xiao Yuan and the others were very cooperative. Not only did they listen, but they also occasionally helped to add on and perfect the story. This was because they had their own roles in the story, and they wanted to describe themselves as best as possible. They walked slowly. Just as Wang Wan was about to let the little fellows get on the bus and hurry on their way, Zhang Xiaobao returned. "What did you find out?" Wang Wan asked when she saw Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand. "No, he's planning to go on a long trip. He's buying things at various stores. Cans, ropes, hatchets, and clothes. This kid actually hid money. After winning against him, he didn't take out all the money. There's a Shiguan note in his shoe. When I think about how I might have come into contact with that kind of money, I feel disgusted. How many germs are on it? I finally know why Luck and Berry can infect each other. And also breath. Don't come back to disgust me. Is breath the same as Berry? I'll stuff a sock in your mouth at night. Then you came back?" Wang Wan punched Zhang Xiaobao. "I came back. I can see that he doesn't plan to leave today. He needs to have a good rest. I got someone to keep an eye on him. When he leaves, I'll go over and take it as a break." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he looked at his younger brothers and sisters who were looking up at him. He asked, "Why don't you take the car? If you want to go between the clouds and the water, you guys can't go far. It's over there. We'll take the car later. It's good to walk around and see what people are busy with. Just now, there was a child about my age who threw away the candy. What a pity. Look, which restaurant is that? The leftovers from yesterday, right? Why is it only now that someone is going to collect it?" Xiao Bei saw a cart pulling a large wooden bucket. A person got off the cart and took out a small wooden bucket from the back alley of a restaurant. He poured the contents into the big wooden bucket and said in puzzlement. Zhang Xiaobao was also puzzled when he saw this. Under normal circumstances, the restaurant would pour out the things the night before. If it was open very late, it would be done early in the morning the next day. It didn't seem good to pour it out now. There were many people on the road, and they would feel uncomfortable after seeing it. It would affect the restaurant's business. With doubts in his heart, Zhang Xiaobao led a group of people over. Their actions clearly frightened the person who was pouring the things out. He stood there and didn't dare to move. Zhang Xiaobao came closer and looked over. He said, "It's all steamed buns and rice. Where are the leftovers?" Xiao Bei also extended his arm to a guard and let him carry it. He also looked over. Sure enough, it was as his brother said. The big wooden bucket was full of staple food, and there was very little noodles. The person who was asked didn't dare to not answer. He replied, "The leftovers were collected by someone last night to feed the pigs. After the pigs eat it, they will become very fat. I raise chickens. My family also sells steamed buns and sesame seed cakes. If the chickens eat too much greasy food, they will become greedy. In the future, they won't lay eggs if I don't feed them often." Zhang Xiaobao stared at the other person's eyes. When the other person finished speaking, he questioned, "Are you sure you didn't take the things home and put them back in the noodles?" "I wouldn't dare," the person said repeatedly, but his eyes flickered. Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything else. He led his brother and sister, and continued to walk forward. Wang Wan, who was beside him, sighed. There are more and more smart people now. They know how to further reduce the cost. Actually, if you think about it carefully, it's not a big deal. The leftover staple food from last night was taken back by someone. If it's not spoiled, they can put it back in the noodles and steam it or roast it. The high temperature will also sterilize it. Not only is it reusing the resources, but it also saves on yeast. Wang Wan's words were obviously not true. But living in a society, there will always be some helplessness. If everyone could consciously do what they should do, then it would become the communism that she didn't dare to believe. Zhang Xiaobao was silent for a while. He shook his head and said, "No, we definitely can't allow him to do that. Today, we let him make steamed buns. Tomorrow, he might do something to the vegetables he received. For example, you can first precipitate it, then boil it, filter it, precipitate it again, heat it up again, and filter it again. Then you can put it in a bucket and sell it to a restaurant at a very low price. The kitchen chefs of the restaurant use it to cook ordinary tofu. If the previous processing technique is not perfect, you can actually taste the minced meat tofu from the tofu. You can give a thumbs up and praise, "This tofu is amazing." Beside him, Xiaobei listened and felt that the processing technique mentioned by her brother was very magical. She thought hard and reminded, "Brother, then can the leftovers be put into compressed biscuits? Compressed biscuits are a lot of things put together. This way it won't be a waste." Don't listen to your brother's nonsense. You can draw inferences from one example. Wang Wan was very helpless. In the past, when she said that the medicine for diarrhea on the skewers could treat dysentery, Xiaobei wanted to help with the cold medicine to treat typhoid. That's why it depends on how you look at things. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and hugged his sister. If we let it go once, it will happen more often in the future. I hope that the people of Great Tang can save and cherish food, but I don't want to use this method to recycle and reuse. Of course, I don't care if the oil is sold to other countries, but it can't be sold in our country. So many things have been fermented, reacted, and heated. Who knows what will appear in it? What if it affects the genes? Just hearing about it makes me scared. Isn't that right, Xiaobei? Yes, I'm scared. I feel disgusted just thinking about it. Putting the leftovers of other people's food into a big pot and boiling it, and then giving it to me to eat. It's so uncomfortable. Xiaobei covered her mouth and pretended to vomit. Pass down the order. Have them pass a law in the imperial court. Then announce it in the newspapers and on the bulletin boards of the local government offices. Whoever dares to recycle food from restaurants and remake it for people to eat will be judged guilty. The person who reports will receive a lot of rewards. Zhang Xiaobao couldn't just say a sentence, and then arrest the person and convict him. After all, such a crime hadn't been committed yet. He had to pass it through those boring people in the imperial court first. Let's go. We'll take the carriage back. I'll make ice cream for all of you when we get home. Zhang Xiaobao carried his sister and boarded the carriage. The others followed suit. In the outskirts of the capital's Ministry of Works, Li Longji was able to finish filming the last set of scenes before noon today. After which, he could edit and copy the scenes before sending them to various places in Great Tang. At least 3 sets of equipment had to be sent to each prefecture, and then it would be played in the counties under their jurisdiction. If there were villages that were too far away, a team of people would be sent to them so that the citizens of Great Tang could see the heroic image of their emperor. We can see that filming a movie isn't an easy task. During the break in the filming, Li Longji sat under a large sun umbrella and casually grabbed a bottle of iced soda. He opened the cap and gulped down 2 mouthfuls of it. After which, he used a handkerchief to wipe the sweat on his forehead and sighed. He didn't dare to move his hands too much in case he wiped off the makeup on his face. Gao Lisher wasn't guarding the construction site in the palace today. He believed that even if he wasn't around, no one would dare to slack off, let alone cut corners. Hearing His Majesty's words, he didn't say anything. He knew that His Majesty was complaining happily. Filming a movie wasn't just tiring for one person. Everyone was tired. However, only those who were filmed could be shown on the screen for many people to watch. This was a great opportunity to become famous. If other scholars could join in the future, they would be willing to do anything for a spot. Usually, they would tire themselves out by participating in poetry gatherings, cocktail parties, and even sending invitations to high officials and nobles. They would flatter each other and occasionally criticize the government. Their goal was to become famous, and then take the imperial examinations and take in students. Once they succeeded, not only would they gain fame, they would also gain benefits. Now they could publish articles in newspapers and encourage others to buy them. In the future, when they were filming a movie, they would be able to see the real person and become famous faster. What should they do then? Gao Lisher was worried about the movie. He was worried that when the emperor's movie was released, many officials who had the same idea would use various means in the imperial court to get a chance to be filmed. Therefore, there would be one more benefit to compete for. The imperial court would be very lively, and the censorate would not be lonely anymore. Lisher, I'll give you a few more scenes. Li Longji saw that Gao Lisher was in a daze. He thought that Gao Lisher felt that he didn't get enough scenes, so he comforted him. "Ah, Your Majesty, this subject thanks you, but there's no need. This subject has enough scenes. Previously, there was a person who helped you pick eggs and gave this subject a lot of scenes. There were also a few lines of dialogue such as Your Majesty, look, this small one is an egg, this big one is a duck egg, this bigger one is a goose egg." Gao Lisher didn't intend to continue wasting the film. No matter what, he had to give the emperor more chances to show his face. Li Longji rolled his eyes and said, "Didn't you cut that part? We can't not tell the difference between chicken, duck, and goose eggs. If it was broadcasted, the common people would laugh to death. Who wrote the script? Punish him." "He has already been punished. He was given 10 whips, but he kept saying that he was wronged because his angle was different. He said that he was not filming the official history, but a drama. If it was an official history, there wouldn't be so much dialogue and scenes. Although this subject hit him, I feel that this person is not bad. I plan to let him write a distorted history to belittle the emperor of other countries, according to the situation of other countries." After Gao Lisher helped to come up with the bad idea, the person who was hit said that although that person didn't write the script well, he did have some skills. It would be a pity to drive him out of this industry. Li Longji nodded. He personally opened a bottle of soda and handed it to Gao Lisher, praising, "It's my great Tang's fortune that you know how to use people well. Tell me, do you want to send someone to Jiannan Road to find Xiao Bao and the others and give them a few sets of scenes? Among the common people, there are actually more portraits of them than of us. It's not good for us to not give them a chance to show their faces." Gao Lisher could tell that this person was obviously jealous. The emperor also had portraits among the common people, but not many of them were used. Furthermore, they were mostly abstract, unlike Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's portraits. There were people who specially painted them and then printed them. They were then bought by people with money and placed in different places. For example, if they were placed outside the rice vat, it meant that there would be a harvest with them around. If they were placed on the stove, it meant that they could replace the kitchen god. If they were placed on the incense table, it meant that they could throw away the sculptures of the Bodhisattva or the 3 pure ones. If they were placed on the door, not to mention ghosts, even gods could be kicked out. If they were placed under the bed, they would think that they couldn't do this. If others were to find out about it, they would be beaten to death. In any case, it was the kind that had many uses, and almost every household didn't lack it. If they really couldn't buy it, they would draw an imaginary one that was more famous than His Majesty. After thinking for a moment, Gao Lisher said softly, "This subject believes that if His Majesty really sends someone to send the equipment over, they will get the soldiers to take a picture of it and then publicize it. For example, the soldiers of Great Tang fought valiantly, didn't fall, fought to the death, and so on. For example, a soldier's clothes would be torn, his face would be wounded, and his arms would be bandaged. In order to avoid the enemy's fierce rain of arrows, he would carry a rifle on his back and a grenade by his waist while crawling forward. When he was within 20 meters of the enemy, he would suddenly stand up, hold his rifle, and shout, 'Long live the Emperor,' while reloading and reloading. In the end, he would be shot like a hedgehog and be dragged back to his position by his comrades. He would cover his heart where he was shot, speak for a quarter of an hour, explain his will clearly, and thank His Majesty before he breathed his last." Initially, Li Longji was nodding his head in agreement, but as he listened on, he was stunned. He stared at Gao Lisher in shock and said, "What kind of scriptwriter and director are you talking about? Instead of shooting from afar, you would run to the most comfortable range of the enemy's bow and open fire. If he dares to stand up 20 meters away from me, I'll shoot him down with an arrow. Furthermore, it's already 20 meters away. If he doesn't throw a grenade, what kind of treasure is that?" As he spoke, Li Longji shook his head, clearly finding it inappropriate. It was fine to fool those who didn't know, but wouldn't those in the know laugh to death? If this was really filmed and broadcasted to the masses, they would think that Great Tang's guns were useless. This is what Xiao Bao said in the past. He said that it would further reflect the iron-bloodedness of the soldiers and express the desperation of war. Gao Lisher felt wronged. After all, he wasn't the one who came up with this idea. Xiao Bao is always up to no good. What iron-bloodedness? To stand up within the range of the enemy's long-range weapons is to be called a retard. When the masses see this, their first thought wouldn't be about the desperation of the war, but who trained the soldiers of Great Tang. They deserve to be killed. Li Longji said confidently. Gao Lishur nodded in agreement. The two of them chatted about interesting matters regarding the filming of the movie. After Li Longji finished a few more sets, he was finally done with the filming. However, he wasn't sure about the post-production. After all, he hadn't tried it before, so he had to try it out according to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's methods. He would just have to familiarize himself with it in the future. After finishing the last set, it was already noon. Li Longji decided to be generous and treat everyone to a meal to celebrate. The location was the canteen of the Ministry of Works. Pointing at the pictures on the wall, he told the crew to choose whatever they wanted. He would pay the bill and put it on Xiaobao's tab. After all, the Ministry of Works belonged to the Zhang family and the Wang family. As the emperor, he couldn't break the rule of not spending money. The crew was extremely grateful. They all greeted the chefs and chose dishes that weren't on the wall. They belonged to the Zhang family and the Wang family, so they were used to eating the dishes prepared by the chefs arranged by their families. A peculiar expression appeared on Li Longji's face. If Zhang Xiaobao saw this, he would definitely give a bad taste evaluation. It was as though it was an honor to spend other people's money to treat someone else to a meal. After scheming against Zhang Xiaobao when he wasn't around, Li Longji felt extremely happy. On the other hand, Gao Lishur felt very helpless. Her Majesty was normally fine, but when it came to matters involving Xiaobao, she would always be in a special state. Her blood pressure would obviously rise, but her appetite would also increase. It was very mysterious. The crew took the food and ate quickly. They were really hungry. They only had a bowl of porridge in the morning before rushing back to work. Moving the props back and forth was very tiring, so they could have a good rest after lunch. With a victorious smile on his face, Li Longji asked someone to bring him his plate. He also deliberately asked someone to pour him a glass of wine. He sat down and started eating. Right at this moment, someone from the telegram department came in. When he appeared at the door, he shouted, Your Majesty, Zhang Xiaobao is calling. Quick, bring it over for me to see. Could it be that Xiaobao found out that I was treating everyone to a meal in the canteen? Huh. Li Longji swallowed a piece of sweet and sour pork and took the telegram excitedly. He read it with a smile. Gao Lishur also took a plate and sat across from Li Longji. He waited for Her Majesty to read it so that he could bring it over. As Li Longji read, he frowned. As he read, his Adam's apple began to move up and down. He glanced down and closed his mouth to let out a muffled groan. He forced himself to hold it back and put the telegram to the side. He then picked up the wine glass and drank half of the wine. Your Majesty. Gao Lishur noticed that the emperor didn't seem to be in a good state, so he asked with concern. Li Longji waved his hand. It's fine, it's fine. Xiaobao probably calculated that I would treat his crew to his canteen and spend his own money to eat his food. That's why he sent me a set of swill processing methods. After some processing, it can continue to be a delicacy on the dining table. For example, this dish of Chinese cabbage in front of me right now. If the chef makes it well, not only will I be able to taste the crispness and tenderness of the cabbage, but I will also be able to taste the meat in the vegetable oil stir-fried dish. Don't you think it's amazing? When Gao Lishur heard it, he felt a little uncomfortable in his throat. Fortunately, he hadn't eaten yet, so he was very glad. However, since Her Majesty had eaten, he could only suggest, Your Majesty, why don't we go on a diet for lunch today? No need. I wasn't prepared earlier, but I'm not afraid now. Xiaobao wants to make a law to prevent others from getting sick from eating. We'll discuss it during the morning court tomorrow. Eat. Xiaobao is against people reprocessing swill. He's even more against people who order a bunch of dishes and throw them away without eating a single bite, especially people like me who don't need to spend money to eat. After calming his stomach and mood, Li Longji began to eat again. He ate very happily, which showed that he had good control over his food. Furthermore, he was confident that no one would dare to feed him swill oil. This method probably hadn't been developed yet. Gao Lishur hurriedly poured wine into Li Longji's empty glass, and also poured a glass for himself. He drank it to suppress his disgust. After making Li Longji feel disgusted, Zhang Xiaobao didn't have a good time preparing lunch. Ever since Xiaobei and the others found out that swill had a great effect, they didn't want to eat lunch anymore. They were preparing to make some snacks, such as nuts. Zhang Xiaobao pondered for a while, and chose a dish that wasn't easy to make with swill. That was barbecuing. Barbecuing a whole sheep without oil would be done directly. At most, they would sprinkle some chili powder, cumin and salt, and eat it with fruit juice. Xiaobei and the others thought about it and felt that it was fine, but they had to see their brother kill the sheep with their own eyes to prevent them from not knowing where he got the dead sheep. When they ate it, they also had to take medicine to treat diarrhea, which was troublesome. Look at you, you scared them. They can't even eat peacefully. Wang Wan expressed her dissatisfaction with Zhang Xiaobao, who had just put the sheep on the grill. What are you scared of? You'll get used to it. Of course, you didn't eat it at that time, but other people ate a lot. Zhang Xiaobao began to cut the sheep with a knife. It's just scary. Impossible. Wang Wan shook her head. Forget it. How much oil does the family produce in a year? How much oil does the family use in a year? Where did the extra oil come from? Anyway, I don't have any evidence now. If it was in the past, I could bring you to the kitchen of a restaurant to take a look. You would see many plastic barrels with black grease on the outside. I'm just saying. Anyway, you didn't eat it in the past, and I didn't eat it in the future. I'm just saying. Let's not let them show up while we still can. If they form a chain of interests again, it will be difficult to deal with them. Zhang Xiaobao began to shake the grill slowly, and the sheep emitted a sizzling sound when the grease was being burned. Do your work. When Xiaobei and the others come later, you are not allowed to say such disgusting things. Wang Wan began to arrange the knives and forks. Chapter 1227. On the west side of Yizhou City, Zhang Xiaobao came out of the west gate, and guess where Lu Feng was going? There were two big rivers on the west side of Yizhou, which was an important part of the Yangtze River. In addition to the two rivers, there were also mountains, one next to the other. In between there were many ravines and other small rivers, and even small lakes. The west side of the city was not the main road in Yizhou. The main roads were in the north and south. But now there were people who took the west side of the road because it was closer. Originally, the roads were all small paths. If you didn't take them for a few days, you wouldn't see any traces of people walking on them. At the same time, there were also various kinds of snakes and insects. Occasionally, a few wolves would appear to cooperate with the people who wanted to take a shortcut. Now it was relatively easier to travel. There were no cement roads, let alone asphalt roads. Of course, the living standards and quality of people living in a country depended on the development of the country's science and technology, agriculture, and animal husbandry. When these three things improved, handicrafts and commerce would inevitably prosper. People would have higher requirements for the variety and quality of goods, which was directly reflected in the price of goods. Therefore, people who had the means would first think of transporting goods from other places to sell. With the money they earned, they would then buy the necessities they needed at home, and the relatively luxurious things they liked. Therefore, the caravan would naturally expand from its original size, and the number of people would also increase. As a very important prefecture in Great Tang, the living standards of Yizhou were naturally close to that of the capital. The locals found that by going out from the west side of the city, crossing mountains and rivers, they could exchange for things that were considered valuable in Yizhou from the west side. On the way, they could even hunt, gather medicinal herbs and wild vegetables. It was said that people who walked a lot would become a road. This was passive. But the working people would change from passive to active when there was a possibility of improving their living standards. There were mountains ahead. It was simple. They would use saws and axes to cut down trees, and use picks and shovels to level the road. There were stones nearby, which they would put in baskets and occasionally transport to the road to prevent the road from being washed away by heavy rain. There was a river. If they didn't want to buy iron chains or couldn't afford them, they would use bamboo fibers to connect the two sides and lay planks on top. When everything was ready, they could start the road. In truth, the most important thing was the stability of the Great Tang. In the past, no one would be willing to go through the trouble of building a road from the Ijo prefecture to the west, unless they were tired of living. Now there was no need for him to worry about being bullied by the Tibetans. Tubo had already become a part of the Great Tang, and he didn't need to worry about being harmed by the locals when he went there. Riding on his horse, Zhang Xiaobao had already felt the enthusiasm of the working people under the protection of the country's powerful military. The road to the west of Ijo was a dirt road, but there were many people coming and going. There were wheelbarrows, donkeys and mules, and some people even carried sticks on their backs. Zhang Xiaobao, who deeply understood the relationship between stability and economic development, understood the thoughts of the passerby. An inexplicable pride filled his heart, as he had contributed greatly to this. Without his wife's battle achievements and his last trick, Tubo would never give in. This had nothing to do with the ordinary people of Tubo. It was the ruling class that didn't want to lose their independent ruling status. Although many of the passers-by in front of him had travel-worn faces, there was no hesitation in their eyes. When he pointed out a path for them, a lamp lit up in his heart. This was the joy of helping others. While Zhang Xiaobao was riding on his horse and thinking, a caravan came in front. The other party must have calculated the time, and arrived in Ijo in the morning. After a short rest, they would be able to ship out the goods in the afternoon. At night, they would invite the local merchants to have a meal. If they were fast enough, they would definitely be able to ship out the goods tomorrow. After that, they would rest for the night, and restock the next day before forming a caravan to rush back. The reason for this was because there were no man-made risks on the road. They didn't need to be like the caravan of the past, where every trip was like a gamble, constantly worrying about being attacked by others. Some were bandits, some were fellow travelers, and some were people who happened to be nearby. Who would dare to make a move now? Unless they were tired of living and couldn't think of a good way to die. So they attacked the caravan of their own country. Once they attacked, regardless of whether it was successful or not, once the caravan escaped back or was discovered by others, the Tang army would be mobilized. It wouldn't be the local yamen runners at all. Then, you could lead a group of people to pray and escape. The prerequisite was that you could be sure that the military dogs, goshawks, and tracking experts wouldn't be able to find any traces of you. You also had to be sure that your internal personnel wouldn't be tempted by the high reward and exemption from punishment. In other words, if you led your men to attack a caravan, and earned 1,000 strings of coins and divided it among everyone, everyone would get dozens of strings of coins. If you were discovered, the imperial court would offer a reward of 10,000 strings of coins, and exempt the person who reported you from punishment. Do you think your men would be able to resist? When Zhang Xiaobao saw the caravan on his horse, he deeply felt the safety of the other party. An organized caravan didn't seem to be very tired. Everyone was talking and laughing, and they felt that anyone by the roadside was like family. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and nodded to 4 people in a row. For a moment, he thought that his identity had been discovered. Later on, he thought that as long as you looked at him, he would nod to anyone. He was probably a public relations staff member of the caravan. The brother in front, pay attention. The one riding the horse, stop scratching. Zhang Xiaobao was in a good mood when he heard a shout from behind. Wei Wei turned to the side. Zhang Xiaobao turned around and saw a caravan of more than 100 people, 20 carriages and many mules. A large flag was raised in the middle of the caravan. It wasn't accurate to call it a flag. It had 2 poles with a piece of cloth in the middle. The advantage was that people could see the symbol on the flag even without the wind blowing it. The disadvantage was that the wind would increase the resistance. The design of the flag was very interesting. At the top was a row of slightly smaller words Great Tang, as if they were afraid that people wouldn't know that the caravan was from Great Tang. Zhang Xiaobao's first impression was that the caravan was going abroad to do international trade. However, they wrote the words Great Tang. Would people recognize them after they left the country? In the middle of the row of words Great Tang, there was a cartoon character. Zhang Xiaobao guessed that it was the character Fan. You have so many characters, but you still wrote it as a cartoon. It's too torturous. Cartoons are popular now, right? Because there were no people on foot, the caravan moved very quickly. Although there weren't many people, It showed the caravan's strong financial strength. Zhang Xiaobao's horse couldn't keep up with the caravan's speed. Naturally, he was overtaken by the caravan. However, Zhang Xiaobao was very puzzled. For a moment, he felt that he had become very stupid, very, very stupid. The road to the west of Izhou could be used by animals and people, but how could a carriage go there? Could it be that there was a special method? That was strange. With infinite curiosity, Zhang Xiaobao hid by the side of the road. When the caravan brushed past him, he asked, "Hey, are you going to India?" "That's India." It couldn't be helped. After all, he had the impression that the caravan was an international trade. If they were going west, they would definitely be going to India. It was the same place that the monk had gone to previously, but the road was different. Someone in the caravan slowed down and looked at the person who asked the question. He smiled and replied, "Why are we going to India? India is too far away. The food in the caravan won't be enough for us to eat." Zhang Xiaobao felt that his question was correct. A carriage could go over mountains, so what was there to be afraid of going to India? Since the other party said no, he could only continue asking, "Are we going to Tubo?" "What Tubo? Have you ever seen a carriage going west?" The other party retorted. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. "That's what I meant too. Then you go over a few hills and you will be a few dozen miles ahead," the other party said. Zhang Xiaobao felt that his thinking ability had deteriorated. What was the meaning of forming a caravan to take this route? Seeing that the other party was about to speed up and follow them, Zhang Xiaobao had an idea. He took out a bun and handed it over. It was the first time they met, so it was better to have some etiquette. Actually, for those who had cigars, one was reluctant to give it to the other party, and the other party might not know how to smoke them. When the other party saw the person who asked about the matter handing over a bun, his expression changed. He was very surprised, but after some consideration he still took it. He did not believe that this person would use poison. Similarly, out of courtesy, he took a bite in front of Zhang Xiaobao and nodded. Good stuff. Good bun. Beef and onion stuffing. Your bun is fragrant and doesn't have a bitter taste. What's going on?" As long as he could keep the other party for a while, Zhang Xiaobao did not care what topic they were talking about. He smiled and said, "When other people eat beef, they usually don't eat it fresh. The so-called taste is not very good. There are also people who put seasonings. The purpose of seasonings is to get rid of the smell, but too much of it will make it bitter. The ingredients of seasonings are one animal, one plant, and one mineral." Yes. You are absolutely right. Do you know what seasonings to put in wontons?" The other party took small bites and was reluctant to eat too quickly. The skin of the steamed buns was thin, the stuffing was big, and the ingredients were good. Excluding Zhang Xiaobao's personal labor costs, just the cost of the steamed buns was 5 copper coins. If sold at the restaurant between the clouds and the water, it would cost at least 60 copper coins. Therefore, people who ate at the restaurant between the clouds and the water generally didn't want to waste money. It was too expensive. Zhang Xiaobao saw that Duanfang was eating happily, so he handed him another steamed bun. He also took one out to eat. He had not eaten in the morning. "Thanks, brother. It's delicious. Hurry up, let's eat while we walk." This person was not polite at all. He took a bun and threw the leftover bun into his mouth, urging him to hurry. Zhang Xiaobao nodded with a bun in his mouth and urged the horse to speed up. When the two people finished all the steamed buns brought by Zhang Xiaobao, they started to talk about wontons again. When it came to eating, Zhang Xiaobao could say that he knew a little about it. He was very modest. Seeing that the other party was still staring at the wontons and asking, he said, "It depends on what you are pursuing. Is it fragrant or fresh? What kind of people are your customers? How much do you want to sell a bowl? Is the stuffing pure vegetarian or pure meat? Or is it a combination?" From the selection of ingredients to the preparation of the stuffing, the blending of the soup, the taste of the soup base, and the auxiliary dipping sauces, there must be a detailed arrangement. Otherwise, it is hard to say. If you really want to say it all, it is estimated that you will not be able to finish it in a day. There are thousands of combinations of various aspects. Of course, people who are not into this kind of food will not be able to taste the subtle differences. What do you want to know? In the spirit of helping others, Zhang Xiaobao said very honestly. The other party listened with wide eyes and nodded from time to time. When Zhang Xiaobao finished, the person was surprised and praised. I met an expert. Brother, you are a chef, right? Absolutely. Where do you work? Hobby. I have not considered a full-time job for the time being. In fact, my real identity is an official of a businessman who deals in goods. Zhang Xiaobao was afraid that the other party would pester him to become a professional chef, so he explained. The person was more confused after hearing that. His occupation was a mess. After thinking about it, he felt that it was very reasonable, so he said, well, as expected, a businessman who is not a good cook is definitely not a good official. Thank you. Zhang Xiaobao smiled. Brother, to be honest, the best stuffing for the wontons we make is the mutton stuffing. There is not a lot of it. Mutton is expensive. Generally, pork is accompanied by vegetables, such as pork and celery, egg and chives and cabbage, loofah, cucumber and dried shrimps, but it is not very much. Dried shrimps are expensive. The soup is soup. The water used to cook the wontons, add some sesame oil, chopped green onions and salt. The person chose to believe in Zhang Xiaobao, thinking that he could give him a better idea. Zhang Xiaobao listened carefully and said, in this case, I will teach you a simple method. It is not too troublesome. I guarantee that your wontons will sell well. Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment to give the other party time to listen carefully. There is no need to say much about the stuffing. I estimate that you can't afford the stuffing. The seller can't afford it. Let's talk about the soup. It must be chicken soup. Put pickled vegetables under the soup. It should be seaweed, but you can't afford it. Put the dried shrimps in the stuffing. If there is coriander, put some in as well. Then prepare the vinegar and soy sauce, and some pepper. Chili, you don't have chili, so don't prepare it. Prepare the garlic. That's all. Just do as you say. You don't have any extra cost. If you think that chicken soup is expensive, pork bone soup is also fine. Xiaobao said a very common recipe. The first time he made it for his family, it was the same. The only difference was that he added seaweed. After listening to it, the other party nodded. So simple? Simple? Yes, simple. Everything is simple. Do you know what the first test of the chef between the clouds and the water test is? Zhang Xiaobao was stunned and immediately followed the other party's words. What? The person obviously didn't know how the chefs of the restaurant between the clouds and the water tested. 3 dishes. One is scrambled eggs, one is roasted eggplant and one is cold shredded cucumber. Zhang Xiaobao stretched out 3 fingers. The other party obviously didn't believe it. Between the clouds and the water was such a famous restaurant. The first test of the test was only these 3 dishes. It was impossible. Impossible. He said it out loud. Do you think it is very simple? The first dish is scrambled eggs. You need to beat the eggs into the pot. They have to be cooked but not burnt, tender but not sticky. Zhang Xiaobao introduced. You don't need to pour the eggs into the pot and stir them? The other party was surprised again. Then is it possible that it is the test of between the clouds and the water? Because it is simple, you can see the basic skills. If you don't have a solid foundation, even if you play tricks with the kitchen knife, between the clouds and the water won't accept it. The simpler things are, the more challenging they are. The more common things are, the more details they pay attention to. If you don't believe me, I will also make a bowl of wonton for you when I have the chance. You take the ingredients. If you use the same ingredients, I will roll the skin, mix the stuffing, and mix the soup by myself. Let's see if the taste is the same. If the taste is the same, it is for fast food. But Chinese cuisine is particular about spirituality. For example, the steamed buns you just ate were filled with beef, scallions, and salt. Nothing else. The skill lies in the choice of the meat, the position of the scallions, the amount of salt, the degree of fermentation of the noodles, the strength of the hand when rolling the skin, the drawer of the steamer, the amount of water, and the heat. Zhang Xiaobao talked a lot, mainly because they got along well with each other. The other party was used to acting surprised, so he showed the same expression again and asked, "Can you be more specific?" Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "No, If there is an absolute ratio, it will become fast food again. I have to see the meat, scallions, and where the noodles are produced before I can mix them. When I am cooking, there can be people watching, but it can only be understood and not explained. I understand. It's a pity that you don't work as a professional chef. Alright, I'll remember the wonton recipe you mentioned earlier. When I meet you in the future, I'll treat you to it for free. I'll take my leave first. Seeing that he had fallen behind the group, the man clamped his legs on the mule and sped up. Zhang Xiaobao waved at him. After the man was far away, he took out his binoculars to look for the water cloud. The water cloud was still slowly circling in the sky. Below him was Lu Feng's position. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the road and roughly estimated that Lu Feng had not left the main road yet. The speed of the horse was not fast. Zhang Xiaobao picked up the water bag on the horse and rinsed his mouth. Then he began to think about other things. From time to time, there would be people coming from the opposite side, but there was no group behind them. Obviously, the other caravans were different from the previous one. With so many goods on their backs, they could not catch up. After walking for about half an hour, Zhang Xiaobao saw the team that had just passed by. The flag was very eye-catching. What made him puzzled was that not only did he see the team, but he also saw the target he was following, Lu Feng. The group stopped. Some people were busy there, and Lu Feng was helping. Zhang Xiaobao took out a mirror and looked at himself. After confirming that there was a big difference from when he met Lu Feng yesterday, he urged his horse forward. The man who had eaten Zhang Xiaobao's steamed buns and several people in the group were using shovels to repair the road. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao found out what was on the carriage. The bags were filled with sand and stones. There were several obvious potholes on the road. The people in the group first paved the sand and stones, and then rolled them with stones. Lu Feng held a long iron bar with a sharp tip at the bottom. From time to time, he would insert the tip into the ground where the stones had rolled over to see if the road was solid. Seeing the people working, Zhang Xiaobao did not understand. Were they a caravan or a professional road repair team? Could it be that they could make a profit by carrying sand and stones on the carriage? Brother, you also came? Wait a moment, I'll finish right away. These potholes are easy to flatten. The worst thing is that after a heavy rain, we have to go back and forth a few times to transport enough sand and stones. The man who had eaten the steamed buns raised his head and greeted Zhang Xiaobao with a smile. He did not forget to complain about the damage of the road. Chapter 1228. Zhang Xiaobao didn't know what to say for a moment. He nodded and waited at the side. His target was right in front of him, so he couldn't run ahead by himself. The person who spoke before picked up a few more shovels of soil, clapped his hands and stopped. There was no more work for him to do. He wiped his sweat and said to Zhang Xiaobao, who was waiting, "Our team is only responsible for the 70-li road from Izhou City to the front. Normally, it would take an ordinary caravan a day to travel. This section of the road is completely repaired by us. Once the road is repaired, no one is allowed to set up stalls on the side of the road. We have stalls 30-li and 70-li respectively. We specialize in selling things to people who come and go. Usually, people will be tired after walking 30-li. They will drink tea and eat something. This is the money we earn." When he mentioned his words, Zhang Xiaobao understood. They were not a team that traveled far to do business. Instead, they set up stalls nearby. If there was something wrong with the 70-li road they were in charge of, they had to fix it so that it would be more convenient for people to travel. At the same time, they went out to work and occupied the spots on the road to do business. Just like the small pavilion in Sanshui County, when people were tired, thirsty, or hungry, they would go to the pavilion to spend money to buy things. Of course, if they didn't have money, they could only eat for free. Sanshui County didn't allow people to starve to death there. But he didn't know if the team in front of him had considered this. If people who come back from other places lose money because of business and don't have money, will you still provide food? Zhang Xiaobao thought and asked casually. Of course. The person answered straightforwardly. Who doesn't have difficulties? People who don't have money to buy food today may be people who make a fortune tomorrow and form a caravan. It's just a meal. Who doesn't have a heart of compassion? Not to mention people. Even if a dog is hungry, People will give leftovers when they see it. You can't be black-hearted when doing business. Otherwise, if the authorities find out, the punishment will be very severe. Therefore, the things we sell are not bad. If they are bad, we will throw them away. There are also ordinary medicines in the stall, relieving people's worries for a moment in exchange for a lifetime of merit. This is a good deal. Zhang Xiaobao listened with a smile on his face. He believed that as long as the leader of the team maintained this mindset, he would definitely be able to create a great family in the future. Unless there was a change in the political situation, however, it was absolutely impossible within the next few decades. In the future, it would depend on himself and Cuckoo. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaobao thought of another problem. What if other people also set up a stall? How do you deal with them? It's very simple. If others also want to set up a stall, we'll just pull them into the team and maintain this section of the road together. Then we'll sell things together, but we can't sell the same thing. Someone from another team happened to walk over and casually said when he heard Zhang Xiaobao's question. What if they don't join your team? Zhang Xiaobao asked again. Then they won't be able to sell anything. Those who walk this road often know that the current section of the road is the responsibility of our fan family's caravan. We've been working seriously, going back and forth once every 3 days to transport things. They know that we maintain the road, so that we can set up a stall. Once they buy something from someone else, it will be difficult for us to do business. We might not continue to set up a stall on this section of the road. And naturally, the road won't be maintained. Other people who sell things by themselves can't take on the work of repairing the road. Even an organized team might not be more serious than us. Therefore, even if someone sells things at a cheaper price, those who walk this road often won't buy them. If they take advantage of them now, they'll lose their future. When you continue to walk forward, you'll know how good this section of the road is. The person who came later was very confident when he spoke. It just so happened that there was a small team coming from the opposite direction. There were 3 mules and 7 people. When they heard this, one of them testified. It's true. The Fan family has maintained this section of the road quite well, especially the large river and 2 small rivers in front of us. As long as the bamboo rope shows obvious wear and tear, the Fan family will have someone change it. If it rains and the water level rises, making it difficult to cross the small bridge, the Fan family will specially set up tents on both sides of the river to provide a place for us to rest and take shelter from the rain. Then they'll boil a pot of ginger soup and give it to everyone for free. With such benevolence and righteousness, how can we have the nerve to buy other people's things? Yes, it's been 2 years. The road that the Fan family has built is the most comfortable for us. Their 2 stalls aren't just set up stalls. They've built a large row of wooden houses. When you're tired, you can go in and sleep. It only costs 1 copper coin each time. If you want to rent their bedding, it costs 3 copper coins. However, as long as someone has slept on their bedding once, they'll take off the outer cover to wash it. Usually when there's sunlight, they'll take it out to dry. Lying on top of it and covering one's body is soft and warm. Furthermore, as long as you eat at their stalls once, they'll remember your preferences. The people at their stalls speak at least 10 different dialects. Zhang Xiaobao's target, Lu Feng, also spoke up. When Zhang Xiaobao heard this, he felt that this wasn't an ordinary merchant setting up a stall on the 70 Li Road, but the Oriental Hotel in Thailand. Was there such a restaurant in the Great Tang? Yes, there was. Zhang Xiaobao was very sure. That was because it was his family's restaurant, and it could remember every customer. However, the problem was that those who wanted to eat at his restaurant had to register. Furthermore, it was impossible for them to do a chain check. They hadn't reached that level yet, and only special customers would receive such treatment. Now this Fan Clan's stall could actually remember people, which meant that the other party had an outstanding memory. No matter how he looked at it, it wasn't worth it to spend so much effort on these 2 stalls. There should be better developments, and he shouldn't waste his energy on these customers who didn't need to be remembered. Zhang Xiaobao sighed inwardly. While admiring the Fan Clan, he also felt sorry for them. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaobao said with good intentions, the Fan Clan should actually make their business bigger. For example, they should take on the 500 Li Road. Then, The Fan clan will be responsible for all the transactions within this 500 li road, and they'll have to pay taxes. The Fan clan doesn't just deal in food, drinks, and lodging. They can also repair cars and provide finished clothes. They can also take on the 500 li road's emergency messenger business. They can even invite medical centers to station people at a certain place, and the Fan clan will provide rooms, food, and lodging. Zhang Xiaobao said this to the people who had eaten his steamed buns. He believed that if the Fan clan really did such a good job, his subordinates would naturally tell the person in charge that was beneficial to the Fan clan. However, just as he finished speaking, the person who came over to speak sighed helplessly and said, "I'm the current head of the Fan clan. I've considered what you said. Right now there's the aspect of repairing cars, but my family doesn't have the money for other things. I'm thinking of a 500 li road, which requires a lot of money. I went to the bank to ask, and they said that at most, they'll loan my family 15,000 strings of cash. It sounds like a lot, but the cost of building roads and houses is definitely far more than 15,000 strings of cash. I plan to manage the 700 li road well first, and when I have more money in the future, I'll gradually push forward. In fact, I've also thought of looking for someone to work with, but they couldn't meet my requirements, so it didn't work out." Zhang Xiaobao nodded. He didn't expect that the person who worked with him would be the head of the Fan clan. A businessman who lowered his status to work with his subordinates. A businessman who provided the best service based on the customer. A businessman who had a dream and seriously worked to start from scratch, shouldn't waste his time on the accumulation of raw capital. Then fine, let's learn from him. I'll lower my status and stop looking at all the problems in the Great Tang's overall economic situation. I'll start from scratch and help him meet his needs in terms of capital first. Zhang Xiaobao thought so, but he felt that he should ask more clearly, so he asked, "Why can't they meet your requirements?" "Because they think that my requirements are unreasonable, and say that I'm stupid," the head of the Fan clan said. "My requirements are: first, build a bathing pool in every resting area, and give it to the guests for free." The person from the Fan clan raised a finger, indicating that he still had other requirements. Zhang Xiaobao didn't reply and continued to listen. "Second, regardless of whether the guests are sick or not, we have to arrange for people to examine them. At the same time, we have to prepare a change of clothes of all sizes for the guests to wear the clean clothes the next day, free of charge. Third, we have to hire idle people to work at our place. At the same time, we have to buy local game at a high price and bring them back. Fourth, every place has to have at least 2 women who can take care of children. Because some of the groups have women who give birth on the way, we have to think of them." The head of the Fan clan listed 3 more requirements, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. "They think that what I said is useless, and that doing it will only increase the cost. But I've always felt that doing business is also being a person. Earn what you need to earn, and pay what you need to pay. Only when you treat your guests well will they be willing to spend money at your place." Zhang Xiaobao decided to help the other party. He knew that in this era, there were many inns that could provide guests with services that made them feel at home, but he had never heard of one that was as detailed and free of charge as the other party. Although it was said that the Fan clan would lend a hand to any of their businesses when someone needed help and didn't have the opportunity to seek help from the yamen, the Fan clan was different. The Fan clan was not doing this out of the ideals of a businessman, but because he and Cuckoo were intensely interested in transforming the Great Tang. In the eyes of the two of them, there were no guests, only the common people of the Great Tang. For the head of the Fan clan to think this way was epoch-making, even better than his younger brothers and sisters. He had to think of a way. Since the road was being repaired, the country should provide a portion of the money as subsidies, and then the banks should provide more credit loans. This way, there would be no problem. Zhang Xiaobao made up his mind, but he didn't say it out loud. If he were to tell the head of the Fan clan, he would need to show his status, or else why would the other party believe him? His target, Lu Feng, was right next to him. Thus, Zhang Xiaobao continued to smile at the head of the Fan clan. Owner Fan's thinking is truly correct. I'm not very good at judging people, but I'm confident that you'll succeed this time. I'll borrow brother's auspicious words. I'll write a written agreement for brother. When brother reaches the front, if we don't make it in time, brother can go to the stall and drink tea. It's my treat. As the head of the Fan clan spoke, he really did find a pen and paper, and wrote a written agreement that he would provide something for free. And then he handed it to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao still didn't know if he would have a chance to enjoy this free treatment. Right now, he was considering how to continue following Lu Feng, whether to reach the front first or find an excuse to stop. After some thought, Zhang Xiaobao said, "Many thanks. How far will the road be repaired before you're done?" The head of the Fan clan looked at the road crushed by stones and said, "Now is enough. Brother Lu, thank you for your help. Why don't we go together? I've prepared some wine, and today's weather is pretty good." At the same time, he invited Lu Feng to drink with him. Zhang Xiaobao knew that these were just polite words. If Lu Feng went, he couldn't refuse, but if he didn't go, then so be it. With this thought in mind, Zhang Xiaobao revealed a surprised expression and said to Lu Feng, "So this brother Lu isn't a member of the team. You're really a good person. Brother Lu, how about this? I have nothing to do right now, so I'll accompany brother Lu to sightsee along the way. What do you think?" When Lu Feng heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he immediately revealed a difficult expression. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "I suddenly remembered that I still have something to do. I have to hurry. Sorry." It's fine. Brother Lu, go ahead." Zhang Xiaobao sat on his horse and cupped his hands. Lu Feng mounted his horse and urged it to gallop away at a fast speed. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and also ran ahead. He was a bit slower than Lu Feng, but faster than the Fan clan's team. Zhang Xiaobao began to regret his decision. Before he came out this morning, he thought that Lu Feng would run a few dozen miles and then turn into a fork in the road. But now, it was obvious that he had run until noon, and he had passed by 2 of the Fan clan stalls. Because Lu Feng didn't slow down, he couldn't stop to drink the free tea. If he continued to run, he wouldn't be able to go back today. However, Zhang Xiaobao wasn't worried about not having a place to stay at night. There were still many people behind him, and they kept a certain distance. When they needed to rest, they would stop and wait. Naturally, someone would set up a tent for them. After a while, Lu Feng finally stopped. Zhang Xiaobao had just let out a sigh of relief when he realized that Lu Feng didn't stop because he had reached a place, but because the horse needed to rest. Looking down at his horse, Zhang Xiaobao also stopped a few miles away from Lu Feng. He found a place with water and led the horse to, watching it eat grass and drink water. After resting for a while, Zhang Xiaobao mounted his horse again and followed Lu Feng. When the sun turned salty like a duck egg yolk and fell on the mountains in the west, Zhang Xiaobao finally came across another stall set up by someone else. He bought delicious food at 3 times the usual price, and let the horse eat some grass as well. When he mounted his horse again, he sped up, afraid that he would lose track of Lu Feng. Otherwise, when night came, the water cloud wouldn't be able to help. When the stars twinkled in the sky, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly felt uneasy, so he urged his horse to run faster. After running for 6 or 7 miles, he encountered a group of people walking forward with torches. Zhang Xiaobao stopped and asked, but the other side said that they didn't see any other horses. "Okay, you're good. You timed it so well. When night came, I was too close, so you could hear the sound of the horse's hooves, but I was too far away, so I couldn't hear your horse's hooves. Where did you come from?" Zhang Xiaobao muttered angrily and turned his horse back, wanting to see if there were any traces left. If he went back directly, wouldn't Wang Wan be happy for half a month? If he lost track of Lu Feng with his own hands, it would be recorded in the history books. "Where did you go? Is there a hoof print no matter what? The horse is so heavy, and there's a person sitting on it. It's impossible to disappear directly." Zhang Xiaobao, who lost track of his target, continued to mutter. At the same time, he took out his flashlight and shone it on the road, hoping to see an obvious hoof print. After going back a few miles, Zhang Xiaobao met his family. "Little young master, we're here. Do you plan to?" His family saw Zhang Xiaobao and asked. "I plan to look for the hoof print. I don't know where Lu Feng went. Just before the sky turned dark, I saw a cloud of water hovering. After the sky turned dark, I ran for about 20 miles. This is the approximate range," Zhang Xiaobao helplessly said to the people who rushed over. Everyone understood that since the little young master had lost track of his target, then they would help him find it. One by one, they took out their flashlights and divided into several groups to speed up. Then, they began to look for the obvious hoof prints left by the horses. After more than an hour, when Zhang Xiaobao was looking forward to it, someone reported, "Little young master, I found it. It's about 3 miles ahead. Go down the left side of the road. There are traces of horses trampling on the grass there. Okay, come with me. I need to get the Ministry of Works Research Institute to figure out the night vision equipment as soon as possible." Zhang Xiaobao called out and rode the horse to the place. He asked the others to set up tents and rest here for the time being. A few others went back to report to their family. Zhang Xiaobao led 10 people to follow the tracks. He could have gone there himself, but he was afraid of encountering wild animals. He didn't want to play with wolves, bears, or anything like that. After walking for about half an hour, there were hoof prints on the grass in front of them. If they continued to walk forward, they would reach the mountain. Following the tracks, they saw a horse tied to a tree in front of them. The flashlight didn't shine directly into the horse's eyes. He was afraid that the horse would be startled and hurt itself while trying to break free from the rope. Instead, he shone the flashlight on the ground. When the horse saw the light, it opened its eyes wide and looked over curiously. Unlike the well-trained hungry war horses, this horse didn't show any vigilance or irritation. It was a rental horse. For it, no matter who it met, as long as they didn't do anything to hurt it, it would feel normal, not to mention that there were 11 of its kind. He actually got off the horse and left. "Leave 2 people to watch the horse. The rest of you follow me. Don't put the horse with his horse. Clean up the nearby tracks." Zhang Xiaobao ordered and led the remaining 8 people to follow the tracks left by Lu Feng. This time, Zhang Xiaobao was not afraid. Before, he was far away. Now that he was in the mountains, he hid the flashlight in his sleeve and didn't let the light spread out. He could find any trace left by Lu Feng. If he didn't have this skill, he would have been caught long ago. After that, he spent money to learn the tracking methods of the special forces of other countries. No matter what, he was still a professional. Moving forward, there was a river. Zhang Xiaobao observed the sand and stone tracks by the river. After confirming that Lu Feng had crossed the river, he followed him. While walking, Zhang Xiaobao admired Lu Feng. He was really brave. What if he encountered a wild animal in the woods? Did he also carry snake and insect repellent with him? It was a behavior that valued money more than life. Little Gongzi, this person has been trained. He can be considered a talented person. A person said to Zhang Xiaobao. "What I am thinking now is where he got the money," Zhang Xiaobao said. Chapter 1229. Zhang Xiaobao led the 8 people and continued to move forward. He disliked tracking people at night the most. If it was a chase, it would not be a problem. However, if he brought along a hunting dog and used a flashlight and a torch to swing back and forth, the person being chased would have a hard time at night. First of all, the physical exhaustion was very high. Although they could see the light, they were always afraid of being chased. In addition, the constant barking of the dog would further deplete their physical strength. At the same time, the psychological pressure was not small, and the body heat was draining too quickly. However, tracking people was troublesome. Without a light, they could not see the tracks, but with a light, they were afraid of being discovered by the other party, not to mention bringing a dog. In the middle of the night, in a place where there were no people, suddenly hearing a dog barking, anyone would have to think carefully about what was going on. I hope we can get some useful clues this time. I have always felt that he was bribed. His pearls were looked at by a jewelry shop, and they said that there is a high possibility that he belongs to the West, which is Duoshi. Zhang Xiaobao saw through the tracks that Lu Feng did not know how to anti-reconnaissance, otherwise he would not have left such obvious tracks, unless he knew too much and then created a false impression. The obvious branches were broken, which was clearly to tell the trackers that he passed by here. Therefore, Zhang Xiaobao was very relaxed. He lowered the flashlight and said to the person who was closest to him. This person also lowered his voice and said, "Young master, if he is found to have colluded with the enemy, how should we deal with him?" That depends on how he colluded with the enemy. I am very puzzled now. You say that he is an ordinary person, not as powerful as the people of the Chen family in Tonghua. If he wants to collude with the enemy, what can he provide to the enemy? If it is information that many people can get, would Duosher give him gold coins and pearls? That gold coin is unique to Duosher and is very valuable. Under normal circumstances, it is used by a special group of people. Occasionally, it will fall into the hands of the common people and is very precious. However, the gold of our dynasty cannot be used and can only be used as a special currency. Therefore, Lu Feng must have been valued by Duosher. What did he betray? To be honest, when I saw his actions at the gambling house, I analyzed it a little and felt that even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be worth that pearl. Don't you think it's interesting? Zhang Xiaobao said in boredom. Then he saw a mark and almost laughed out loud. It was actually the mark of Lu Feng accidentally lying on the ground. There was a vine in front of him. It was obvious that Lu Feng had tripped over it. With this level of skill, he dared to take action in the middle of the night. Furthermore, he was valued by Duo Cannibal. Zhang Xiaobao felt that there was either something wrong with his brain, or Duo Cannibal's head had smashed into a wall. The person accompanying Zhang Xiaobao also saw the obvious signs of lying on the ground, so he covered his mouth in silence. After a moment of silence he asked, "Little Gongzi, do you think that he might have told others about your arrival in Jiannan?" After saying this he said to himself, "I don't think it's possible. We came with great fanfare to attract the attention of the Duo Eaters, and then let them transfer their troops over, so that their other side of the defense would be empty and provide support for our landing operations. Move back a little, don't speak blindly." The person behind the person pulled him to the back and took his place. He turned to Zhang Xiaobao and said, "I think that Lu Feng must have obtained some kind of technology and shared it with the Duo Eaters. The Duo Eaters found the technology to be extremely useful, so they rewarded him handsomely. What kind of technology could have attracted the attention of the Duo Eaters?" All right, don't speak anymore. Just follow me. I'm about to be misled by you all. If it were up to me, I would say that he has sold himself. Zhang Xiaobao turned around and nudged the head of the person behind him. That person was too close, so close that they were almost touching him. The person behind chuckled and fell silent. They had always been very casual with Zhang Xiaobao. As long as it did not involve serious matters, they even dared to joke with Zhang Xiaobao, and even tease Zhang Xiaobao. The atmosphere in the inner courtyard of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family had always been so relaxed. Of course, if they were in danger, they would also rush over and stand at the forefront, using their own lives to protect the main house. It was also because of this that Zhang Xiaobao occasionally joked with them. What else could you ask of someone who would die for you at any time? The 9 people followed the trail in such a relaxed and happy mood. After crossing the river and crossing the mountain, when the moon was clearly above their heads, they finally found more footprints in front of them. These footprints clearly did not appear from the path they came from, but from another path. Then, these footprints converged in the same direction as Lu Feng's footprints. Zhang Xiaobao deduced 2 points from this. The first was that the other party had always had a secret hiding place in this area, and the footprints were left when they were delivering supplies or delivering information. The second was that Lu Feng had agreed to meet them at a place they were familiar with, and they had only arrived today. At this time of the year, the vegetation was lush, and if not for the short interval between the footprints, it would be impossible to tell which one it was. Unless it had rained 2 days ago, and these people had come before and after the rain, then the footprints would be different. Now, Zhang Xiaobao did not have the advanced equipment to take samples and analyze them, and it was not worth it. To deal with the current Duo Qi, there was no need to spy on them. Unless their military strength increased, they could solve many problems on the battlefield that could only be solved in other aspects. As they continued forward, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly made a few low sounds from his throat. The 8 people following behind him immediately stopped moving, no longer speaking as casually as before, and turned off their flashlights. Zhang Xiaobao had already heard the sound of people talking, so he took out his binoculars to look carefully. He frowned but did not see any light. It seemed that the other party was very vigilant. Zhang Xiaobao thought for a while, and then made some very soft sounds from his throat. If one was not close enough to hear it, one would think that it was an owl calling. Even if one were to find a zoologist who specialized in raising owls, after hearing Zhang Xiaobao's voice, they would definitely not think that it was made by other animals. Zhang Xiaobao was at this level, or else he would not be able to casually imitate other people's speech. After a few simple goo-goo sounds, the 8 people behind Zhang Xiaobao spread out and carefully spread out in all directions. Zhang Xiaobao waited for a while, but did not hear any movement from his own people, so he was sure that the other party had not sent out any sentries. Shaking his head, Zhang Xiaobao felt that playing this game with the enemy was really bullying them. He did not know what the enemy was thinking. Did they think that just because they ran into the mountains, they could not arrange for sentries? If his own intelligence personnel were like this, they would not be able to graduate. Since no one was on alert, Zhang Xiaobao wasn't worried. He followed the direction of the voice and quietly made his way over. The closer he got, the clearer the sound of the voice became. Moving forward and turning a corner, Zhang Xiaobao finally found the light. It was very weak, as if there was a cave in front of him. He did not know if it was a man-made cave or a natural formation. Zhang Xiaobao bent down, reached out, and touched the grass in front of him. There were no other tall trees nearby, so Zhang Xiaobao lifted his foot and stepped on the place he had just touched. Moving back and forth, Zhang Xiaobao approached the entrance of the cave step by step. Using the weak light inside, he looked around and chose a place where it would be difficult for others to pee. Zhang Xiaobao sneaked over. He did not want to be discovered or be drenched in urine. Relaxing a little, he focused on his ears and listened carefully to the conversation inside. Lu Feng's voice was very recognizable, even if he was speaking Arabic. Zhang Xiaobao could tell from the quality and tone of Lu Feng's voice. Lu Feng's foreign language learning was really bad. He was clearly speaking Arabic with local characteristics. If he were to be the translator, he would be beaten to death. Xiaobao listened attentively. He knew Arabic from the start, but some of his vocabulary was different from what he had learned in the past. Even his pronunciation was different. Hence, when he was considering fighting polyphagia, he specially learned it. Zhang Xiaobao did not know how long it was, but he knew that they had not talked about the main topic yet. It was Lu Feng who had been toasting, and the other party would praise the wine. How can wine not taste good? You can't drink it normally. Whoever dares to drink it will lose their life. So Lu Feng came out to buy wine, especially for the followers who are not allowed to drink. Did he rely on this to get pearls and gold coins? Zhang Xiaobao thought. If that was the case, then it was not considered colluding with the enemy, and there should not be any serious business. It should be known that in polyphagy, no matter how much gold coins they had, they could not buy wine. At this moment, Zhang Xiaobao thought that Lu Feng was a talent. Selling combs to monks, selling ice fruits to Eskimos, and selling sand in the Sahara Desert were all talents. But to make a man believe that his other half was a male monkey, and to provide things that the followers did not allow, this was a great talent. Back in Tubo, throwing pig dung and pig innards at other people's place was too kind. Looking at Lu Feng, he was definitely more skilled. Zhang Xiaobao continued to listen. It was probably because polyphagy had not drunk for a long time, so his alcohol tolerance was poor. When he spoke, Lu Feng's pronunciation was more authentic, and the other party had deviated from the dialect to some extent. It's decided. If you don't make any big mistakes when you come back, I'll give you an official position to specialize in diplomacy. Zhang Xiaobao had already made a promise to Lu Feng in his heart. If he did not use such a capable person, he would be guilty of the crime of hindering the integration of the world's races. Lu Feng, what good stuff did you bring this time? One of the cannibals spoke up. Zhang Xiaobao took a deep breath and began to frown. Lu Feng had indeed obtained useful information, and it seemed to be related to the real thing. It's nothing important. This time, I brought the manufacturing process and blueprints of cannons. I'll show them to you first. When the time comes, you can consider what kind of price to offer. Lu Feng's words rang out, and Zhang Xiaobao's eyes narrowed. He wondered where Lu Feng had obtained the manufacturing process of cannons. This was something that he had always been in charge of, and the civil servants of the Ministry of Works could not even think of getting involved. Moreover, his father was in charge. Where did something go wrong? Zhang Xiaobao heard the sound of paper flipping. Then Polyphagy's voice rang out again. This is different from the blueprint you brought last time. Last time, it was a grenade. This time it's a cannon. Did you guys make the grenade? Lu Feng was speaking now. We didn't. We did according to what you said, and also compared it to the blueprint you drew. However, there was no explosion at all. There were only a lot of sparks coming from that place, similar to fireworks, Polyphagy said. How is that possible? You definitely didn't understand the main problem with the grenade. First, there needs to be something to store the grayish-black powder in the fireworks. Then you need to leave a spark on the fireworks, light it up, and throw the grenade. It will explode with a bang, right? Lu Feng said in a tough tone. Yes. When we came into contact with the Tang army in the north and had a small battle, we picked up a few grenades that did not explode. It was indeed as you said. However, we made them and then put in the gunpowder of the fireworks. We found that it was useless. Once we lit it up, it would spew out fire from the small hole. It was very beautiful, but it just didn't explode. Polyphagy's voice was full of grievance. I see. What they used was gunpowder, and the powder you used was fireworks. You put it in the iron, so of course it wouldn't explode. However, too many fireworks can hurt people, so after you get the fireworks, you have to take them apart. Don't put the powder in the iron, understand? Lu Feng seemed to be very patient as he continued to explain the theory. Now that you understand, what should we put it in? Polyphagy asked. Put it in the paper. Iron is too strong. If you put the powder in the paper, won't it explode? Lu Feng seemed to be very impatient. It made people feel that he was complaining that Polyphagy was too stupid. Yes. Put it in the paper, Polyphagy said. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly felt a stomachache. The gunpowder of the fireworks was originally wrapped in the paper. Instead of taking out the gunpowder and putting it in the paper, it was better to just throw the fireworks. At least the craftsmanship of the fireworks was more authentic, and the quality was good. The explosion rate was close to 100%. If it was Polyphagy's handiwork, it would be good enough if half of them could explode. The rest would either be put in qihua, or misfired. Why did I ask you to rewrap it in paper? There's a problem here. As if he felt that there was something wrong with what he said, Lu Feng's voice sounded again. What problem? You must be very curious. It turns out that the smaller the fireworks in the Tang Empire are, the less powerful the explosion is. When you redo it, take out the powder in 10 fireworks and roll it in the same paper. Won't it be powerful? Yes, we will definitely do it when we go back. Now let's talk about the cannon. Why did the cannon you drew have 2 holes? A few Sundays ago, the cannon we saw at your side had 1 hole. From the sound of it, Polyphagy was tongue-tied. It seemed that the wine was delicious. That's a good question. Why are there 2 holes on the left and right? When your side fought with the Tang Empire army a few times ago, they saw 1 hole. It involves a new kind of technology. You have seen fireworks, right? The kind that is arranged in rows. Once it's lit, it can fly up into the sky one after another. Have you seen that before? Lu Feng's tone changed again. Zhang Xiaobao was very familiar with it and missed it. When he first started learning how to cheat, he used this kind of tone. His voice was sticky and magnetic. It was said that he had been a technical official for more than 20 years, and had always been at the department level to have such a voice. This was because when one reached the deputy department level, one would appear very gentle. When one reached the department level, one would be full of energy and gentleness. Only those department-level officials who had been in technical positions for a long time would speak like this, making people feel that they were very confident, authoritative, and unquestionable. For this reason, he had practiced for 3 months before he reached the standard. This was because he had enough talent. He didn't know how long Lu Feng had practiced for. To be honest, Zhang Xiaobao had never seen a double-hole cannon before. He had seen a double-hole autocannon and a double-hole hunting rifle. If he had to talk about a double-hole cannon, it was fine. A double-hole self-propelled cannon was like a tank, but it was 2 up and down, not 1 left and 1 right. Now, the Tang Empire hadn't created a cannon that was parallel to the left and right, and they wouldn't create one either. That was just too idle. Just as Zhang Xiaobao was thinking, a voice came from inside again. I've seen it before. What kind of technology is it? If you want to understand what kind of technology it is, you first have to know that the Ministry of Works has a special research department. It's called the New Combined Power Gunpowder Weapon Connection System Autonomous Control Long-Range Strike Killing Technology Institute. Yes, most people don't know that there is such a department. Even those who have heard of it occasionally definitely don't understand the main function of this department. What does it do? Why does it do this? What kind of problems were discovered in the process of doing it? And what kind of technical channels were used to solve them? Lu Feng's voice began to become aggressive, high-pitched, urgent and powerful. Zhang Xiaobao instantly liked Lu Feng, the kind of like that of admiration. His words were really too beautiful, and he had a bright future. If he had known that this was the case, he wouldn't have won his pearls yesterday. It would have been fine even if he had given Xiaobei's pearls to him. After all, Xiaobei didn't lack those lousy pearls. Duosher was clearly dumbfounded and couldn't say anything for a while. Lu Feng very understandingly continued. The series of problems I just mentioned. In the entire Tang Empire, you won't be able to find a second person who understands the situation to tell you. Come, I'll explain it to you in detail. Bring the blueprint over, and you come over too by my side. Okay, pay attention, don't be distracted. What I hate most is when other people are thinking about other things when I'm talking. Now follow the dotted line that my hand is drawing. Look here, there are two muzzles, but look carefully, isn't there a connecting hole in the middle of the two muzzles? Why is there this small hole? Do you think that fireworks also have small holes in them, and then they are connected to each other, and ignited one by one? Let me tell you, you're wrong to think so, very wrong, very wrong. If that's really the case, then the people in the research institute are all trash, rice buckets. This hole is empty, let me tell you, it's empty, it's always been empty. Why? Why is it empty? It involves the aerodynamic linkage of inhalation and exhalation. It doesn't exist independently. If it exists independently, do you think the research institute has any value? New Combined Power Gunpowder Weapon Connection System Autonomous Control Long-Range Strike Killing Technology Institute. Think carefully about the name of this research institute. Did you notice the problem? There are a few key words in its name. One is joint, one is loading, and one is autonomous. Of course, the most important words are long-range, strike, and killing. Think carefully, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to do? Tell me. They want to create even more powerful weapons to kill us. Do Renjio said with a trembling voice, slightly sober. Yes and no. To kill you is simply killing you. What I want to say is that they want to use a low price to kill you. And they want to kill you efficiently. Do you understand efficiency? Alright, Jiu Ren, I won't say any more. Actually, I really don't want to hand over the technology to you. After all, I'm from the Great Tang. But how did they treat me? As a technician, I don't even get paid as much as a pork seller. What do you call this? Last time, you said that you arranged for troops to be stationed at the border. How are the arrangements? You must remember, don't be within the range of their cannons, and build more wooden and grass houses around your camp, so that they can't tell which one to blow up. I have an irreconcilable enmity with them, and I can't take revenge myself, so I have to rely on you. How are you doing now? Let me analyze it for you. Lu Feng seemed to be persuading them to drink again. Take a look and help us analyze it. Don't worry, we remember what the Great Tang did to you, and we'll help you take revenge. I'll draw it for you first. We're still sending troops to the border, and the logistics are also moving to the border. It's all here, and here, good wine, you won't be able to drink it when you go back. Do Renjio said a lot, and then he kept praising the wine. It's not easy for me to come here. Let me say first, I don't want gold coins. That thing is only worth a few hundred copper coins, and it's not worth much. I need to spend money to get the technology. Yes, this paper money will do. You still have a way to make money. I don't want pearls, it's not easy to sell, and it's easy to arouse suspicion. I'm thinking for you. What? You're asking where Xiaobei and Xiaobao are now? I'm a technician. Can I help you find them? Yes, they're in Ijo, and I heard that they change places every 2 hours. They're afraid of assassinations, so don't let me go to the restaurant. Now the restaurant is closed to outsiders. How about this? I'll tell you one last time. I'm not in charge of finding out their exact whereabouts, but I'll tell you something. The day after tomorrow, they'll hold a military parade 12 li west of Ijo City. Take your men there. Give me some more money. I'm afraid that your ambush will fail, and they'll find out in advance. Then they'll increase the security and search the city. Yes, they're searching now, but it's not too strict. It's not too strict for me, but I'm afraid that if you're exposed, they'll be even stricter with me. Be careful. Be very careful. Give me 600 strings of coins? Fine, you don't have money either. If I didn't have a grudge against them, don't expect me to give you information with this little money. As for wine, I'll bring you some next time. Don't drink too much. You can't hold your liquor well, and drinking too much will delay things. I'm leaving, and you can continue drinking. On my conscience, you're condemned, aren't you? Sometimes I'll be scared awake in my dreams. After all, I've betrayed my country. Fine, don't comfort me, and don't send me off. Following Lu Feng's series of words, the cave was quiet at first, and then footsteps were heard. Zhang Xiaobao saw Lu Feng swaying out of the cave, and then walking in the direction of Sanma. Zhang Xiaobao quietly followed beside him. After Lu Feng walked 100 steps, he suddenly stopped and looked back. Seeing that no one was following him, he let out a long sigh, exhaled, and walked a few hundred steps forward. He laughed to himself and murmured, "You're so gullible. Damn, I have to find a way to pass the news to Xiaobao and the others. I've done a meritorious service, and it's a great meritorious service. Damn, I'll show those who look down on me that I, Lu Feng, am also capable and can make contributions." Zhang Xiaobao, who was nearby, took a deep breath, pursed his lips and nodded. Chapter 1230. Lu Feng left without any hindrance. He also did not notice that he was being followed. When he rode back to the main road, he met Zhang Xiaobao by chance. Zhang Xiaobao rode alone, saying that he wanted to enjoy the scenery at night. Lu Feng thought that Zhang Xiaobao should go to the medical center in the city to have a good look. The bodyguards who followed Zhang Xiaobao disguised themselves as a temporary business bodyguard team. They wanted to see if they could get any work, so they also met Lu Feng and Zhang Xiaobao by chance. When there were more people, it would be lively. Lu Feng felt that it was the most reliable. He did not want to walk alone at night, and he especially did not like to eat the dry biscuits that he carried with him. The temporary team of bodyguards warmly invited him and Xiaobao to have a meal together. What's more, it was a stew that was still warm. There was no other way. When they came, they didn't prepare enough, so it was impossible for them to prepare other dishes. "Brother Lu, it seems that you have finished your business. When you return to the city, come to my place when you have time. I opened a new place that sells stationery. See if there is anything that you like. I will give you the capital." Xiaobao had a good impression of Lu Feng, so he warmly said to Lu Feng while they were on the road after dinner. Lu Feng was very surprised. He did not expect that this person who liked to enjoy the scenery was actually a businessman. When they met before, he seemed to have said that he was an official. Could it be that all the officials now started to do business? Lu Feng nodded in confusion. Then he shook his head and said, "I can go to your place to have a look, but not to buy anything. I am not a scholar. Is your stationery store specialized in selling the 4 treasures of the study?" Zhang Xiaobao smiled under the light of the team's torches and explained, "More than that. The 4 treasures of the study store sell a lot of things, but I sell more." "What do you have? Tell me roughly." Lu Feng was interested. He also knew that the 4 treasures of the study were not only the ink, paper, and inkstone. There were many other things such as water drops for dripping ink on the inkstone, pen holders for holding brushes, and so on. Most of the shops nowadays were about the same, but from what the other party said, it seemed like there was something even better. He didn't know if he could use it. Zhang Xiaobao had already made arrangements for Lu Feng. When he heard Lu Feng's question, he nodded and said, "There are indeed a lot of things. If I were to tell you all of them, I wouldn't be able to finish them all by tomorrow. In addition to buying things commonly used by scholars, my shop also sells things used by craftsmen. There's a horizontal ruler. It's a tool to see if a flat surface is flat or not. You know how to build a house, right? You need a string. Mine is attached to a flat surface. There's a small bubble in the middle. The bubble is in a kind of water. As long as the surface is uneven, the bubble will lean to one side. It's very useful. Lu Feng had never even heard of the things that Zhang Xiaobao mentioned, let alone seeing them. His eyes revealed a curious look as he asked, apart from this thing, what else is there? Yes. For example, the tool caliper. It's a ruler with a small gadget on one end. I call it a vernier caliper. It's very convenient to measure the inner and outer diameters of an object. My caliper is also very accurate. It's made of good materials. You can use it not only to measure things, but also to draw pictures. Zhang Xiaobao continued. He had overheard Lu Feng's conversation with the duo cannibals. They had talked about the blueprints for the cannons. Moreover, it was a double-holed cannon. There was also some data. It seemed that Lu Feng had some knowledge of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been easy to trick them. No matter where Lu Feng learned it from, at least it showed that he had a good foundation. In that case, he would give him a set of tools. It wasn't necessary for him to use this set of tools to do something earth-shattering. It was just to give him a job. Sure enough, Lu Feng was very happy when he heard that he could draw pictures. He hesitated and said, "Is there really such a thing? How about wood? Is it expensive? How do you take care of it?" It wasn't easy to pretend to be a technician. Lu Feng had unknowingly asked as a technician. Wood. I have wooden rulers, but most of them are used by ordinary people. Vernier calipers are made of stainless steel. I'll give you the cost price, 20 copper coins. If it was someone else, I wouldn't sell it. It's difficult to maintain it. The caliper is very accurate. It can't come into contact with water, salt, or vinegar. It also can't be maintained when the air is too humid. But Brother Lu, you don't have to worry. When you come to my shop, you can look at other things. I'll give you a set of tools specially used for maintenance. I still have a telescope. It's very useful. Zhang Xiaobao's shop hadn't opened yet, but there was no need to rush. Someone in the group had secretly gone to the back of the shop to report. Now there were probably people in the city looking for a place. Although it was already midnight, the procedures were still smooth. Even if they needed the seal of the provincial governor would still get up. Zhang Xiaobao said it casually, but Lu Feng didn't feel relaxed at all. He was already very surprised by the caliper. Was stainless steel something that ordinary people could have? And it was only 20 copper coins. What was even more bizarre was the telescope. He had heard of this thing before. It could be used to see the scenery from far away. However, ordinary people definitely couldn't get it. In an instant, Lu Feng felt that he had encountered a swindler. It was just like how he had swindled Duo Cannibal. He didn't expect that this chef, businessman, or whatnot, was also a swindler. Lu Feng was unhappy. After a moment of silence, he slightly urged the horse to go faster. This was a way to express his dissatisfaction. Zhang Xiaobao didn't seem to notice it. He was still talking to Lu Feng. I still have the microscope used by the medical school. It's not very accurate, but it's still okay. It can be used to observe sections. Do you know section? For example, if you want to see what's inside a leaf, you can cut it open and put it between two pieces of glass. Then you can put some other things on it and take a look under the microscope. You can see very clearly. I also have a set of drawing tools in my shop. No matter if you want to draw a square or a circle, it can be done in the blink of an eye. Also, you can add different kinds of pencils. When you have time, you can use them to draw sketches. You should have seen them before, right? As Lu Feng listened to Zhang Xiaobao, he forgot that he was in a situation where he was being swindled. He nodded subconsciously. Suddenly he reacted and revealed a cold smile. He cooperated and asked, "Do you have a more precise scale with you? They can be used to weigh very small things." You've asked the right person. Yes, it's even more accurate than the ones used to make medicinal herbs. There are quite a number of weights. Let me tell you this. As long as you want, you can buy them from my shop to make anything you see on the market. Whether it's a blowtorch, glass test tubes of all shapes and sizes, or chemical agents controlled by the Ministry of Works, I have everything you need. Zhang Xiaobao puffed out his chest. He seemed very confident. The enthusiasm on his face didn't change. Okay. Lu Feng faintly said these two words, and then stopped talking. He treated Xiaobao as a dishonest person. They had only met twice, and he even said that he was looking at the scenery outside. How could he lie to someone he met? Are those things that you said you can have? Brother Lu, do you not believe me? Zhang Xiaobao asked. I believe you. If Brother Zhang says you have it, I will believe you. If you say that you have a pistol now, I will believe you. Lu Feng's tone was obviously not right. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care and smiled. It will be dawn when we go back. Let's speed up and get to the place in the morning. Brother Lu will know then. Okay, I will wait. Lu Feng sped up. Zhang Xiaobao began to talk with Lu Feng about other things. He talked about the scenery of the places he had been to, the products, and the culture. Anyway, he said everything that could be said, as if he knew everything. Therefore, Lu Feng was under a lot of pressure. On one hand, he thought that Zhang Xiaobao was a liar. On the other hand, he listened carefully when Zhang Xiaobao talked, because many of the things that came out of Zhang Xiaobao's mouth seemed to be true. When the sky started to brighten, Lu Feng was very suspicious. If Brother Zhang, who was chattering nonstop, continued to talk to him for a while, he wondered if he would get an illness in his head. It was really too torturous. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao finally stopped talking. He had secretly taken medicine to soothe his throat twice. In fact, Zhang Xiaobao had a purpose in saying these words. He felt that Lu Feng was angry in his heart. It could be said that he was sulking or ambitious, but the target of his anger was obviously the people in his village who looked down on him in the past. This was not good. It would make people become extreme. Usually they would not have much contact with things. Spending all their time in anger was not good for the body. Telling him about the outside world would broaden his horizons and broaden his mind. When he sees the things in the stationery store again, she believed that after some time, he would realize how foolish he was in a fit of pique in the past. When he was alone in the house, he would feel that the scenery in front of him was not good. Then he would open the window and look at the more beautiful scenery outside. When the team returned to Izhou City, it had been 30 hours since Zhang Xiaobao came out. Lu Feng looked sleepy, but Zhang Xiaobao and the guards were better. After all, they had received training and could cope with the current situation. Ah, you're back. Brother Lu, do you want to have breakfast together? Zhang Xiaobao invited. Lu Feng wanted to sleep now, so he was not in the mood to eat. Hearing that, he shook his head. Since Brother Lu doesn't want to eat, I won't eat either. Come to my place first, look at the things, and then sleep for a while. Zhang Xiaobao invited again. At the same time, he pointed in front of them. There was a sign with the words Magical Stationery Store written on it. Lu Feng looked in the direction Zhang Xiaobao pointed, and was stunned. When he came out yesterday, he remembered very clearly that there was no such store. It turned out that the store was selling grains. Did he go to the wrong place? Not only was he surprised, but the people who came to buy grains in the morning were also stunned. They were used to having a grain store in this place. How did it change overnight? Brother Lu, do you want to have a look? Zhang Xiaobao invited again. Lu Feng was stupefied. He followed Zhang Xiaobao to the door. When they got off the horse, the door was open from the inside. A man dressed like a manservant came out and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Boss, you're back?" I'm back. Do your work well. Brother Lu, please." Zhang Xiaobao raised his hand and invited Lu Feng, who was still in a stupefied state, into the store. There were many glass counters in the store, in which were some of the things Zhang Xiaobao mentioned on the way. Lu Feng walked over and picked up the telescope in the most conspicuous position. He raised it to his eyes and then his eyes widened. He asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Brother Zhang, do you know people from the Zhang family and the Wang family?" Chapter 1231. Just as he asked this question, Lu Feng suddenly put down his binoculars and rushed to the door. He closed the door with 2 loud bangs. His eyes flickered as he picked up the latch and quickly locked the door. He turned around and said to Zhang Xiaobao, Do you know what you are doing? I don't care if you open a shop to make money, but you can't sell things that you shouldn't sell. Don't think that you can do whatever you want because you know their family. Can you sell binoculars? Can you? Also, look at the things you have here. Look at how exquisite they are. If you sell them, not in case, there will definitely be other enemies who will buy them. You want to reduce the technology gap between us. You are more hateful than the people who directly sell strategic materials to them. You should be arrested and shot. No, put on the Vermilion Bird Avenue. I sell stationery. Look at this stationery box. Zhang Xiaobao smiled at Lu Feng, walked behind a counter, and took out an antique stationery box. According to his calculation, it was an automatic stationery box from many years ago. There was a button on it, and when pressed, a stationery box would pop out from somewhere else. It was very fun, but it was later eliminated as it was not practical. When the students held the stationery box in class, they were not obedient. Their attention was all focused on the button, and then the pencils and pens inside would either break or leak ink. In fact, it was not suitable to take it out for the children to use, because in addition to pencils, the children still needed to write with a brush. Obviously, the stationery box could not put a brush, even if the brush was up and down, and would not directly hurt the brush hair, but when it moved it would shake, and it would be very harmful to the brush. Zhang Xiaobao chose to take it out because the stationery box was designed by his brothers and sisters. When they were playing with assembling toys, they played with it and assembled the stationery box. Since that was the case, it was better to produce a batch and then let the children who could afford to play with it. At least it could cultivate the children's interest. He believed that there would be curious children who would take the stationery box apart and then assemble it again by themselves. This was the inherent thinking and behavior of a normal person. They liked to think about things, and even adults were the same. As long as they felt that something didn't require too much technology, or thought that their knowledge could be applied to it, they would always want to take it apart and put it back together. Of course, in the process, most of the things eventually broke down. Science was all about curiosity. There was a saying that the poor studied while the rich studied martial arts. However, those who were truly involved in research needed money the most. Those who could afford to buy a pencil case were most likely from wealthy families. 10,000 bought, 5,000 opened. Perhaps many years later, it was precisely because of a pencil box at this time that a scientist with a major invention was nurtured. Sure enough, when Lu Feng saw the stationery box, he found it very interesting. He placed the stationery box on the counter and pressed the buttons over and over again. For a moment, he forgot about his tiredness and hunger. He was completely absorbed in it. Is it fun? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Lu Feng nodded. Is it interesting? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Lu Feng nodded. Did you find it interesting? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Lu Feng nodded. Then do you think it can be sold? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Lu Feng shook his head. No. Is there a spring inside? And it's a spring made of better material? What if someone from Duo Nihility buys it and uses it to make guns? Don't think that I don't know about springs in guns. I've seen Duo Nihility's guns. They're filled with gunpowder, then iron pellets are put in and a shot is fired. It's very dangerous if you get close to it. Also, they're currently researching impact ignition. Don't think that they're stupid. They can also think about it. If you put firecrackers on hard ground and hit them with a hammer, what does it mean? It means that the firing method of a gun can be studied carefully. If it can't be fired, the power of the firing can be increased. Now that there's a spring in the pencil case you're selling, what if they use it to make a firing device? What do you say? I have to take a good look at the things in your shop. If there's anything that I don't think others can learn, you're not allowed to sell it. Otherwise, I'll fight you to the death. Zhang Xiaobao was very impressed. He said 3 things in a row and Lu Feng nodded. According to conventional thinking, Lu Feng should continue to nod when the 4th question was asked. Unexpectedly, he shook his head. Hearing Lu Feng's words, Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and smiled. It seemed that Lu Feng knew a lot, but he wasn't proficient in it. It was too difficult to use gunpowder to make a firing gun. He might as well hold a hammer in his hand. It was more useful than a spring. As for the accuracy, he couldn't care less. Okay, I'll listen to you. You go to sleep first. I won't open the door today. When you wake up, I'll ask the shop assistant to show you around. Zhang Xiaobao planned to go back to sleep as well. He would sleep after drinking a bowl of soup and not eat any dishes or staples. Lu Feng looked at the closed door and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "You know their family, so you can take things from them. Why don't you do me a favor? Help me pass a message to Xiaobao or Cuckoo. Just say no, help me contact them. I'll tell them personally. It's very important, very important. I'll go to sleep first, you contact them." Okay. Zhang Xiaobao agreed. Look at how happy you are. Did you find something good? Zhang Xiaobao went back to the restaurant. He greeted his younger brother and sister who were studying and asked someone to bring him a bowl of egg drop soup. He soaked himself in a big wooden bucket filled with hot water. He bathed to relieve his fatigue while drinking the soup. Wang Wan saw that his expression was good, so she asked. Zhang Xiaobao blew the floating green onions in the bowl. He took a deep breath and said, "It smells good. When people are tired, they need hot water, salt, and a little bit of fat. Drinking a few mouthfuls of hot soup can increase people's chances of survival in a difficult environment." "So you're so happy to see the soup?" Wang Wan held a book in her hand. She didn't read it and pretended to talk to Zhang Xiaobao. "Not exactly. Yesterday morning, when I went out to follow them, I found a colleague, a very interesting colleague. Lu Feng, this kid is not bad. He's talented, hardworking, and most importantly, he knows how to use any resources to help himself gain benefits." Zhang Xiaobao tried to drink a mouthful of the soup. It was so hot that he stuck out his tongue and continued to blow. Wang Wan had long been used to Zhang Xiaobao's style of doing things. She wasn't in a hurry. She looked at the words in the book again and waited. After sticking out his tongue, Zhang Xiaobao moved his body, making a sound of water. He suddenly asked, "Why didn't you put a spoon in the soup for me? Since I met you, I've never seen you use a spoon to drink soup. Generally speaking, your mouth is facing the edge of the bowl. Look at Bei Bei and Xiaoyuan drinking soup. They're all influenced by you." I tried to persuade them again and again, but the effect was very bad. Wang Wan still didn't ask about the previous words. She followed Zhang Xiaobao's words and tapped the table a few times with her hand. "We're also considered a big family. We have to cultivate the quality of our children from a young age. Aristocrats aren't born. You don't use a spoon to drink soup, and you make noises when you eat. What qualifications do you have to enter the upper-class circle? I protest. You're mocking us working people. Drinking soup with a spoon isn't satisfying, but when you open your mouth, it's delicious. In the past, when people who were cheated by me saw me eat like this, they praised me and said that I was bold. It's the same principle as pouring wine on one's body instead of swallowing it into one's stomach. For example, my harvest this time. When Lu Feng went to cheat people and competed in drinking with many people, no matter what he said, many people would flatter him at the side. Otherwise, how could they let themselves be cheated so comfortably?" Zhang Xiaobao's body kept moving as he spoke. Obviously, the space in the wooden barrel was small and not as comfortable as in the pool. Wang Wan put down the book and showed a curious expression. She asked, "Oh, you're saying that Lu Feng can cheat many people to drink wine? In this period of time, they don't seem to be allowed to drink because of the food problem. If they get addicted to drinking, maybe they'll find a way to make wine themselves. That's a good idea. Yes, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking about how to secretly trade them a good winemaking method. I want to break the current prohibition rule and change it into the future. That is, people can drink, but they can't do anything that endangers public safety because of drinking. Alcohol can make people relax to a certain extent. If drunk in moderation, it can also drive away the cold and speed up people's blood circulation. Drinking on the battlefield can make people braver." Zhang Xiaobao narrowed his eyes and said to Wang Wan with a smile. In his heart, he had a plan. Wine was more harmful to the country than to individuals in this period of time. Fruit wine consumed fruits, while white wine generally consumed food. It was not easy to make fruit wine into white wine. Wang Wan frowned slightly and nodded after thinking for a while. She knew what Zhang Xiaobao meant. After the war began, in addition to the fierce confrontations at the front, there would be small-scale conflicts and the repositioning of the border. They had to fight continuously, but they also had to control the rhythm and attack countries with strategic positions. This was the disadvantage of not being able to quickly occupy them. If they didn't have very sharp mechanized troops, they couldn't fight a blitzkrieg battle. If they didn't have a good policy to pacify the people, they couldn't guarantee that the people in the places they fought wouldn't organize resistance. If they couldn't guarantee that the supply line would be extended due to various factors, then they couldn't rush too fast. Otherwise, if they forcefully pushed forward, it would lead to more deaths. Not only would they be killed by the enemy's guerrilla warfare, but there would also be psychological stress and illness after a long period of war. When fighting to a certain extent, Zhang Xiaobao's methods would be needed to break down the enemy's soldiers' will and destroy the people's mentality. The best method was to let the enemy realize that they couldn't beat the opponent in front, and that they had nothing to eat at the back. In addition to Zhang Xiaobao's plan, if several steps were used at the same time, the effect would be very good and obvious. It's actually a loss that you didn't go with him. Lu Feng is too interesting. I don't know how he got in touch with the man-eaters. He actually gave himself the identity of a technician, the kind that is oppressed and unfair. He drew the blueprints himself and wrote the technical information himself. Yesterday, he sold a new powerful weapon to the man-eaters. It's a double-hole cannon arranged side by side. There's a small hole between the two muzzles. This kind of technology is not accessible to ordinary people, because it was successfully researched and tested by our new combined power gunpowder weapon connection system Autonomous Control Long-Range Strike and Kill Technology Equipment Institute. It's a very powerful research department. Just the name alone is scary enough. Count how many words. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he began to drink the soup. It was a little cold now. If he didn't drink it now, he would feel uncomfortable. His stomach was already aching. Wang Wan. After being stunned for a while, she asked with a smile. Lu Feng actually tricked the man-eaters and even created his own department. At the same time, he drew blueprints and wrote data? He's really a talent. So he also got his money from the man-eaters? No wonder there are special gold coins for the man-eaters and pearls that match the local characteristics. Yes, but yesterday he didn't ask for the gold coins and pearls. He said that the gold coins were not valuable, and that it was troublesome to sell the pearls. He took people's. I estimate that it was 700 or 800 strings of coins. He seemed to take less at the beginning. Later on, he specifically asked for 600 strings of coins. It's enough for him to spend for a while. He said that in 2 days, we will hold a drill outside the city. When the time comes, we will participate and let the man-eaters cooperate with the assassination. Now he's waiting for my reply to see if he has contacted the Zhang family and the Wang family. He wants to make a contribution, and then use it to attack the people who once looked down on him. Zhang Xiaobao said and shook his head helplessly. Wang Wan and Wei Wei opened their mouths. He suffered a lot in their village. He actually thinks about revenge all the time, and even dares to deceive the man-eaters. Once the man-eaters realize that there is a problem, or if they think that he has enough knowledge, they will tie him up and he can forget about coming back. Yes, that's why I admire him. He's a living person. He has his own happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. He has his own pursuits. His understanding of happiness is also different from ours. He wants to use his future identity to make the people who look down on him regret. He wants to return to the village after he has money and show it off. But he can't figure out other ways to make money faster, so he takes the risk. Through his words in the gambling house, we can know how much resentment he has for the people in the village. It can be said that his hatred is monstrous. Zhang Xiaobao said with a sigh. He could actually understand. It was just like when he was taking revenge on others. When he was wronged, he would not seek any legal support. He could not fight against the power of others, but he could do it more directly. He could not represent the law, but he had his own scales. The most direct reason for this situation was that the people who enforced the law were people, not machines. people could not get rid of social relations, and the importance of human resources was well reflected. Wang Wan also sighed and said, so Lu Feng chose a different path. He did not use direct force to kill the people in the village who looked down on him. In the village, he had an inferiority complex. After he came out, he was confident. He was better than you at that time. He did not challenge the country's law. Don't drag me into this. He's probably just discriminated against because of economic pressure. It's not that he was beaten up by the county magistrate. If it's the latter, do you think the current law enforcement department of Tang Empire will let the county magistrate off? What about me? If it was also the county magistrate who beat me, what do you think the consequences would be if I went to complain? You still have the nerve to mention this kind of thing. If someone broke the law against me and I went to complain, then I would be suppressed or even persecuted. If it was more serious, I would disappear. In order to avoid this situation, I used other means to take revenge. I was breaking the law, and then no one helped me to suppress or excuse me. Does it mean that the best way is for me to choose to endure? Otherwise, I would be a bad person, a person who endangers public safety, a person who does not know strategy, a person who crosses the street like a rat who is hated by everyone. In fact, I am worse than a rat, because no one cares whether the rat crosses the street or not. Zhang Xiaobao was angry when he talked about this kind of thing. It seemed that after being bullied, he had to do things according to other people's rules. Otherwise, it was wrong, and other people's rules were to protect other people's interests. So Lu Feng is a very good person. Wang Wan sighed and blamed herself for bringing up this topic. She couldn't possibly change the mentality that Zhang Xiaobao had developed over a long period of time. Although it was extreme, it depended on the strength one had. When one's strength reached a certain level, then it was no longer extreme, but the truth. At that time, although Zhang Xiaobao couldn't become the truth, he could make it so that you couldn't use the truth to deal with him. At the same time, he could also make a move on the people who protected the truth, then hide in other places that didn't agree with your truth. Yes, it's very good. Zhang Xiaobao did not continue to talk about this old topic. He was only occasionally touched and felt uncomfortable. This was also the reason why he encouraged Li Longji to spend a lot of money every year to send waves of inspectors to different places. He had been wronged and suffered injustice, so he wanted to try his best to let people who were in the same situation as him suffer less. In this regard, he could not be the world. He only represented himself. After drinking the soup in the bowl, Zhang Xiaobao stood up and said to Wang Wan, who was helping him dry his body, "What makes me most gratified is that Lu Feng is still protecting this country, or this regime, when he wants to take revenge on the villagers. If he is willing, I believe he can find a way to sell restricted goods of Tang Dynasty to Duoshi, like the Chen family. But he chose to cheat people of Duoshi, risking his life. Not only is he cheating people of their money, but he is also considering cheating people of their lives. You know the shop I opened after I came back, right? There are a lot of things in it. Actually, I don't intend to sell them at all. The things I want to sell are all ordinary things that don't require high technology. For example, slightly higher precision rulers, compasses, protractors, and so on. Also, I don't only sell them to children. If the craftsmen want to buy them, they will also sell them. If the tools are not uniform, there will be a big difference in the products produced, which will affect the overall craftsmen of society. In the future, if any craftsman invents something good, we will buy it directly. If the craftsmen do not have high technology, we will make a finished product and help them sell it. Even if it is a child who invented it, it will be the same. When the stationery box is sold, I will sign an agreement with Xiaobei and the others to share the technology patent. This will be a great boost to Tang Dynasty's technological research. It is too slow to only rely on the rewards given by the Ministry of Works for craftsmen. As for the phenomenon of imitation, I have considered it carefully. We can imitate the theory, but we cannot completely imitate the appearance. Also, every imitation must have a little bit of its own technology. If not, we will investigate and punish severely. What do you think? After he finished speaking, Wang Wan dried Zhang Xiaobao's body. He did not return to the master bedroom. Instead, he slept on the bed in the study that was neither a study nor a side bedroom. Wang Wan covered Zhang Xiaobao with the blanket and sat at the head of the bed. She looked at Zhang Xiaobao who was lying there and said, I understand what you mean. If the person who imitates wants to avoid the law, he has to add in his own technology. When he adds in the technology will belong to him. If others want to imitate, they will have to change the technology. In this way, as time passes, all kinds of technology will appear among the people, which is very beneficial to the overall development of our country. Let me add that the craftsmen now do not have many requirements for patents. They have always wanted to use their own means to keep it a secret. If you have to say that there is a requirement, it is best to write their name on the patent. The person who invented it will be named. Many foreigners are like this. The name of the thing is actually a person's name, or an abbreviation of a person's name. If it is done, the craftsman will be very happy. In addition to the rules you set, if we help them sell it in the early stages, they will be able to earn a lot of money. Especially when they use our name, that will be a brand. When the craftsman's income increases, they will consciously continue to invest in research to earn more money and gain a greater reputation. Fame and profit, I have not found anyone who does not need it. The foundation of a country's development is to increase the production of profit and fame. At the same time, it is to maintain the rules of fame and profit. It is very stable, but it is very difficult because any rule has a loophole. There are many people who want to break the rules. Alright, I have already thought of it. You are planning to let Lu Feng be in charge of this, right? His luck is really good. He can go to a gambling den and meet Xiaobei and the others who are shopping. There are many people like him in the world, but not everyone has the same luck as him. Hey, are you asleep? As Wang Wan spoke, she saw that Zhang Xiaobao was not moving. His breathing had become even and his eyes were closed. She started to get angry. Who was she talking to? No. Zhang Xiaobao opened his eyes. I am thinking about how to deal with it the day after tomorrow. We will start fighting tomorrow. Will they come to assassinate us? The people who are keeping watch over there have not sent back any news. What should we do? Wait, what else can we do? They probably won't come. Let's take the initiative to go there. Which of the guards in the house has not killed before? We can go there and kill a few to train our courage. But if we don't catch them and then train, many people will not be able to get past the psychological barrier. If there are many of them hiding in the mountains, we can catch them to repair the road. Wang Wan felt that the guards in the house had been too idle recently. A small portion of them had not participated in battles. No matter how harsh the training was, it would not be enough. Zhang Xiaobao reached out and hugged Wang Wan's waist. Madam, you are so thoughtful. Alright, I will listen to you. I do want Lu Feng to be in charge. Now that the magical stationery stores are opening in the central cities of various states, he will be in charge of being a deputy in Ezhou before he is trained. I admire his patriotism. There are many advanced things in the stationery store. After he saw it, he directly blocked the door of my store. He clearly knows that I am in contact with the Zhang family and the Wang family, but he still righteously scolded me. Human nature is like this. He has his own shortcomings, but he also has his own merits. I don't care about his shortcomings. I only use his merits. Of course, if he can slowly get rid of some of his shortcomings, that will be better. Doesn't he want to be outstanding? I will give him a chance. When there is a need, I will vigorously promote it. I will say that he is not afraid of difficulties and dangers. He fought with the enemy with wisdom and courage. With the support of his patriotism, he won the battle at that level. He is a hero who comes from an ordinary family, but dares to do anything for the Tang Empire. His opposite is the Chun family. The Chun family is rich, but they can never be compared with Lu Feng. Lu Feng is more important than a goose feather, while the Chun family is less important than Mount Tai. What nonsense is this? Is there a saying that the Chun family is more important than a goose feather? You are brainwashing. I agree. If the ruling class doesn't brainwash them, they will be robbed by the ruling class. Wang Wan smiled and patted Zhang Xiaobao's hand. She stood up and said, You continue to sleep. I am going to see Xiaobei and the others. It seems that you can't eat lunch. What are you going to eat for dinner? I will cook dinner after I wake up. Go go. Oh, there is also the Fan family. You should also contact them and provide them with money. Let them do a good job in road construction and management. He is also very good. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand and retracted his arm. He leaned inwards and hugged part of the quilt to sleep. He had this habit of hugging the quilt to sleep. Even in summer, he needed a thin quilt to cover himself. After the quilt warmed up, he would turn over and continue hugging the other side because it was cooler. On the road to the west of Izhou City, about 40 miles away, there were more than 10 connected houses by the roadside. All of them were built with wood. As noon approached, more and more people came from both sides of the road. Many people would habitually look up at the sky when they saw the houses, looking for the position of the sun. Then they would find a place under the shed outside. Some people directly took out money and ordered food. Some people even drank. Generally speaking, people who came from the west drank because there were only a few dozen miles left. At the end of the road was Izhou City, where they could have a good rest. There were also people who didn't have money at all. They just took out some fried noodles from their bags. They were dry fried and didn't want to use oil. If oil was used to fry noodles, it would waste a lot of oil. There was only a little bit of salt in it. These people didn't order food. They just greeted the waiter and asked for a bowl of water. People who walked this road often knew that the hot water at the Fan family's stall didn't cost money. If they really didn't have money or food, they would give them a steamed bun when they saw that they only had water. One steamed bun wasn't enough to fill their stomachs, but it could prevent them from starving to death. They could persevere until they reached the city. When they reached the city, they didn't have to worry about starving to death. They could just go to the local government office and ask them to find a suitable job for them to feed themselves. Old Fan, give us a jar of yellow wine and some hot dishes. Serve the cold dishes first. We'll drink. 3 people came from the west. Each of them was in charge of 2 mules. Familiar people could tell at a glance that the 3 people didn't travel too far. Moreover, they chose the right path. Otherwise, one person wouldn't be able to watch 2 mules. The 3 people were dressed the same, but they were definitely not relatives. The most common thing was that each of them had a full beard. Obviously, because it was difficult to wash them on the road, their beards had stuck together into strands. One of the people with a black mole under his left eye shouted at the person in charge of collecting money. They seemed to be very familiar with each other. Otherwise, they would normally call each other waiter. The person who was shouted at was the head of the Fan family that Zhang Xiaobao saw yesterday. He stayed at the stall to take care of the accounts and collect money. The person in charge of the accounts had gone to do other things. When he saw the 3 people, he revealed a warm smile and said, "Second brother Do, it seems that you guys are rich this time. The last few times you came here, you couldn't bear to spend money on wine, let alone hot dishes. You guys can handle a bowl of noodles. How about 4 dishes? 6 for is too little. For cold dishes. Old Fan, it's not that I want to criticize you, but look at the restaurants in the city. When customers come, they serve cold dishes first. There are also a few small plates that are free. Why don't you prepare some?" The person who was called second brother Do unbuttoned 2 buttons on his collar and sat there boldly. He laughed and teased the head of the Fan family. "Oh, isn't this the second son of the Do family, Do Qiong? Why, are you so poor now that you want to eat for free?" Before the people of the Fan family could speak, someone at the table next to them interrupted. Judging from his tone, he was also familiar with second brother Do. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly regretted it. Because there were 2 people, one old and one young, who were also poor. In front of each of them was a steamed bun, a bowl of hot water, and a plate of pickles. Real pickles, not cold dishes. According to him, these 2 people were eating for free. His words struck a blow to everyone. He hesitated, but seeing that the old and young people didn't even raise their heads, he didn't have the nerve to deliberately apologize. However, his face clearly turned red. "I'll say it again. My name is not Qiong, it's Qiong. It's very delicate. You said that I'm eating for free, so I'll eat for once. Today, you have to treat each table to a dish. Otherwise, you'll have to say what you said." Do Qiong also glanced at the old and young people. then said to the person who just spoke, "Of course, I'll definitely treat, but the dishes won't do. The head of the Fan family doesn't have enough hands, so it's troublesome to cook. Let's just have a bowl of wonton each. Those of you who ordered other things like wine, I won't care." The person nodded at Do Cheong gratefully. This was a chance to apologize. Otherwise, based on what he said just now, those who knew him today would laugh at him when they saw him in the future. The old and young people didn't provoke him, so why did he have to criticize them? Who didn't have difficulties? The head of the Fan family, Fan Cheating, also quickly followed. Today's wonton is different from other times. I've been taught by an expert, so when I got up in the morning to prepare the ingredients, I specially made a bowl and tasted it. The taste is simply amazing. Xiaoba, each person has a bowl of wonton. Those who order and drink wait until they're almost done eating. The waiter, Xiaoba, was very perceptive. He immediately agreed and immediately put 2 bowls of wonton into the pot. After boiling for a while, he took out the wonton and put it into the bowls. Then he added the ingredients according to the method Zhang Xiaobao taught him yesterday. The bone broth was mixed, and the aroma was overflowing. He sprinkled some coriander and chopped green onions on top, and carried it to the old and young people's tables. "Old master, give me some face. Someone insisted on treating us. It's hot, so take your time." The waiter was very good at talking. The old man looked at the 2 bowls in front of him, and then looked at his grandson who was looking up at him. He touched his grandson's head and said, "Eat, this uncle is treating us. In the future, if you have the ability, you can go and help others. Today, we have to travel more. When we get to the city, you can go to school. I'll go to the yamen and ask them to arrange a job for us." "Old master, where did you come from? It seems that you have traveled a lot." The person who was treating them saw that the old man understood everything, so he greeted him. "In the west, the child's parents came out to look for work. I heard that they went to Hunan province. There are only mountains in my hometown, so it's close to the border. I brought my grandson, and didn't want to wait any longer. It's hard to send a message. So, I came here first. When I have enough money, I'll go there to look for his parents. Thank you very much." The old man explained his situation and thanked the person. "Don't thank me. It's not a big deal. You also had difficulties on the road. When you get to the city, it'll be fine. People like you don't need to look for work at all. When you go to the yamen, just tell them where you are, and the yamen will arrange a place to take care of you. You don't have to worry about the little ones. When they get to the school in the city, there will be someone to take care of them immediately. I'm familiar with this. First, they need to take a bath. If they can eat, they can eat. If they are tired, they can choose a place to sleep. When they wake up, they will have new clothes. As long as they are in the school, their food and clothes are better than what we usually eat. Many businessmen are willing to invest in the school. Compared to them, my situation is nothing. When I came over, I heard that Xiao Bao and the others had arrived. Maybe Xiao Bei and the others will go there, and let your grandson meet them." The person who was treating them continued, as if he was saying that it was a blessing for his grandson to meet Xiao Bei and the others. "I heard." The old man continued, "I heard about it on the way here. When I was at the front, the yamen even gave me money. I didn't come out and took the wrong path. In the end, I took a big detour and spent the money. I didn't get to the place, but many people helped me along the way. This place is better than my place. There is no yamen to manage my place. There is no yamen at all." Along the way, I heard people praising Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, as well as their younger siblings. Praising is the right thing to do. Who dares not to praise? The relief area in the yamen was built according to their request. There is also the school for the elderly. The school was originally called, what was it called again? The person forgot as he spoke. It was started in Baoxing County. It was called Operation Chaoyang. At that time, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were still young. They had just finished leading the army and returned to become officials. That was when they started. Until now, there are businessmen in all the places in Great Tang that we go. A few days ago, I heard that Xiao Bei was angry because there was a Tunghua County in Maozhou that only had the yamen's kindergarten. The conditions were very poor, and there were no good schools funded by good businessmen. Therefore, Xiaobei said that he wouldn't force the businessmen to fork out money. Wherever there was no school funding, their precious candy house would take care of it. However, in the future, even if the local businessmen wanted to fork out money, he wouldn't give them a chance. Old fan, don't you think so? I heard that you fork out a lot of money. Do Qiong drank a big mouthful of wine to help replenish her drink. She even talked about something new and treated it as news. The grandfather and grandson came from afar, so they really didn't know what was so great about Xiaobei. From what he said, it seemed that he had to give them a chance to pay. Therefore, the old man asked in confusion, if they don't fork out money, they will take their lives? Is it very important for Xiaobei to give them a chance? They don't want their lives. Fan Cheating, who was named, said with a smile. As long as you don't make any mistakes, no one will take your life. There won't be any bad consequences, and your business won't be suppressed. However, from now on, all the businessmen in that place will be recorded by Xiaobei and the others. In the future, they won't look for you if there's anything good. Moreover, once you commit a crime, they might come to arrest you personally. Once they catch you, they'll finish you off. Even if you have the ability to complain to the morning court of Hanyuan Palace Hall, no one, from the emperor to the ministers, will say a word for you. My family really doesn't fork out a lot of money. Every month, we get about 70 strings of coins. It's not that I don't want to give more, but the school doesn't need that much money. There are other people who will pay. I've always believed that in this world, there is a return on investment. It seems that there is no return on investment, but in fact, that's not the case. For example, according to my normal family wealth, I can get a loan of 10,000 strings of coins from the bank. However, when I asked, they said that I can get 15,000 strings of coins because I'm paying for the school. They are looking at your character and reputation. A person who cares so much for children, I believe that he can't be bad. Fan Cheating described the treatment he received to prove the relationship between investment and return. While everyone was discussing national affairs, a few fast horses came from the west and came directly to the stall. The people on the horses dismounted. The first person looked at Fan Cheating and asked, "Are you Fan Cheating of Ijo's fan family?" "Yes, you are." Fan Cheating was puzzled. "I'm the manager of Ijo's Tang Bank. Yesterday, the young master met with you and instructed us to provide you with a low-interest, high-limit loan. He said that you have the ability to repay, and that there is no problem with your reputation. If you're not busy, come with us to sign the contract." The person who came had a businesslike appearance. "Young master? Your family?" Xiao Bao. "Yesterday?" "Yesterday, the one who said that they would go sightseeing was Xiao Bao?" After hearing this, Fan Cheating suddenly shouted in surprise. The others looked at Fan Cheating enviously. They thought that investment really did pay off, and it came so directly and so quickly. Chapter 1232. Fan Cheating left in a special happy mood. Before he got on the horse, he asked the waiter to add a serving of salted beans for each table. Other people got up to see him off. They looked at Fan Cheating's small figure with envy. They were not only envious that Fan Cheating could borrow more money, but also envious that he met Zhang Xiaobao yesterday and got the method of making wontons from Zhang Xiaobao. "Xiaobao, a bowl of wontons." Do Qiong shouted at the waiter. She didn't mention that she would be treated. She still had money for a bowl of wontons. The old man who left his hometown with his grandson was still in a trance. On the way here, he had heard many people talking about Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, but he had never felt so real. What was the matter with the loan? "Grandpa, it's delicious." The old man's grandson ate the steamed bun and looked at the half bowl of hot water left. In the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of another bowl of wontons and chose not to drink the water. As a result, he, who had never eaten wontons before, was instantly conquered by the delicious taste of wontons and shouted at his grandfather. The old man looked at his grandson who was eating wontons and didn't worry that the little thing would eat too much. Although the little thing was only 7 years old, his appetite was not small. Moreover, on the way here, there was little oil in his stomach. Every meal he ate was comparable to an adult. What made the old man absent-minded was that he almost didn't recognize the country he had heard of before. Because it was remote and located at the border of two countries, the old man and others who were similar to the old man didn't have a sense of belonging to the Tang Empire. Anyway, there was no local government, so it was fine to say that they belonged to any country. The thing that made the deepest impression was not long after his grandson was born. In the past, every 2 or 3 months, he had to come out of the mountains, cross 2 rivers, and walk down the last river for half a month to trade with the local people for salt. At first, the price was very high, but he was already used to it. After his grandson was born, he occasionally went down with other people in the village to trade. He found that the salt was cheap, and it was no longer black. One kind of salt was white and delicate, and the other was very cheap, with a little black color and big grains. Later on, he heard people say that they would continue to head east, where they could find work and earn more money. Only then did his son and daughter-in-law leave. When they left, his grandson was only 3 years old. 10 years later, they never saw each other again. She had originally planned to beg for money along the way, when she brought her grandson out. Who would have thought that from the moment they met with the first official, their way of life was different? The people who came and went wore good clothes, and they even received money. The official's request was very simple. The grandmother and grandson had to report their names, tell them where they lived, and then put their fingerprints on 3 pieces of paper that they did not recognize. One of the 3 pieces was for her to keep. After that, the yamen gave them money and someone told them how to get there. Unfortunately, because they had never been out before, they took the wrong route and took a big detour. After spending all their money, they had to rely on others to help them along the way. Whenever they met people on the road, they would listen to what they said. They heard a lot, but they were not complete. The one who felt it the most was that the people in the yamen were stupid. They actually gave money just by leaving a fingerprint. The people they met on the road were generous and did not care to treat them to food. It was only today that they heard people speak, and someone even asked them to eat wontons in an apologetic manner. They felt the most emotional. When they were young, they ate wontons once when they exchanged food with others. The taste was still unforgettable. Standing by the table, the old man felt like he was in a dream. When the others sat down again and his grandson called him again, saying that the wonton in his bowl was delicious, he suddenly woke up. He sat down again, scooped up a wonton with a spoon, put it near his mouth, and gently blew on it twice before putting it into his mouth. A strong meaty flavor immediately filled the old man's mouth. After drinking a mouthful of fresh and hot soup, an indescribable smile appeared on the old man's wrinkled face. Use a spoon. The old man corrected his grandson's way of eating wontons with chopsticks. His eyes began to look at the people around him, feeling that everything in the world had changed. "Old man, do you want some wine?" Do Cheong asked as she poured a bowl full of wine and brought it over. The old man grinned and said, "That's good to hear. I'm always afraid that people will lie to me and say that the school arranged for the kid in Ijo City is a lie, and that the job at the yamen is a lie." The old man didn't refuse the offer of wine, but talked about something else. He had been very tired along the way, so he didn't know much about Tang. After hearing about it from others, he would always mention it casually when he met people again. One was to verify what he had heard from others, and the other was to show that he was familiar with Tang so that he wouldn't be bullied. Many times when he was sleeping with his grandson by the roadside in the wilderness at night, he would be awakened by the slightest noise. If it weren't for the fact that he still had a grandson to take care of, he might not have been able to survive. Do Cheong was stunned by the old man's mumbling and relieving words. She soon understood what was going on with the old man. She guessed that he must have been very careful and on tenterhooks along the way. It was normal to be afraid of being bullied and cheated when traveling. However, Do Cheong suddenly realized that she hadn't felt like the old man for a long time. The last time she had the same feeling seemed to be yesterday, but it also seemed to be very long ago. When did it start? Ijing. Logistics camp? Do Cheong stood at the old man's table with a bowl of wine in each hand and murmured. The old man stretched out his hands covered with blue veins and calluses, and carefully took the wine. He took a sip and smacked his lips, revealing his yellow teeth with 2 missing teeth. He praised, "Good wine. What's the logistics camp of Ijo? It's nothing. It's just an army that used to be temporarily used to deliver things in wars. Now it still exists, but it's different from before because 2 people are missing. Do Cheong shook her head hard, trying to shake away the idea in her mind. She casually explained to the old man, raised the wine and proposed a toast, and also smiled. Deliver things? Deliver things to the army? Oh, I know. Before I came out, there were many people who delivered things on the other side. It's not easy for them to carry things on their shoulders and hands. They delivered food. My side didn't send many animals, and they were all people they found from other places. They were all like us and had a hard life. Although it's called an army, in fact they can't fight in wars. The name of the logistics camp. The old man had his own little calculation, and at the same time he also had the thought of showing off like many ordinary people. He tried his best to show that he knew more. He was different from those old guys who surrounded Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan all day. Those old guys were all shrewd, and it was hard for others to guess what they were thinking. The person who was treating them interrupted. What do you mean, old man? The logistics camp can't fight in wars? Haha, if the logistics camp of Ijo can't fight in wars, there will be no strong army in the world. I don't know how the armies in other places are famous, but the logistics camp of Ijo's fame is built with corpses. Whose corpses? The old man asked with a slightly unconvinced look. Ours. Another person in the small team spoke, but the expression on his face was very calm. The person who heard his voice immediately felt embarrassed. Obviously, since he could say this, he must be from Tubo. The leader is the one you mentioned just now. I've heard many times along the way, Cuckoo. The one who cooperates with her is another name, Xiaobao. Demoness Cuckoo. A smile that can destroy the whole world. And a ruthless Xiaobao who kills without spilling blood. The person who continued the conversation couldn't help but shiver. The old man was stunned. He unconsciously drank a mouthful of wine and recovered from the alcohol. He asked puzzledly, "Didn't you say that the 2 of them were doing good deeds? They wanted the government to help the people and let the children be literate. Why did they kill people?" Another person in the original Tubo team said, "They only help the people of their own country. Take you for example. If you admit that you are the people of the Tang Empire and put your fingerprint, you will be helped. If you don't admit that you are the people of the Tang Empire and don't put your fingerprint when they ask you to, you and your grandson will starve to death on the road." The old man was also shocked. He didn't think of anything else when he was imprinting his handprint. He didn't think of anything else. Anyway, he and his grandson were penniless. They wouldn't be sold. They weren't worth anything. Who would have thought that this would happen? You were beaten up by them and many people died. Then they put your fingerprint? The old man guessed and asked. Actually, not many people died in the war. In total, there were only about 100,000 people. The ones who really died were Xiaobao's extermination plan. Later, we found out that he didn't show any mercy. In addition, our king also agreed, so we surrendered. After we surrendered, our lives started to get better. If we had known, why did we fight? Who was it? He came up with a plan to dig up the Yangtze River. And the place he dug was the place where the father of Cuckoo and Xiaobao was an official. This person obviously didn't hate Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Instead, he hated the person who came up with the plan. The old man didn't hear this on the way. He couldn't follow the other party's train of thought. After hearing it, he asked, "Who is their father?" A third-rank official in the imperial court, the Minister of Works, Zhang Yongcheng. Even if I tell you, you don't know how powerful he is. He is very, very powerful. He is much more powerful than the most powerful official you have ever seen. Even the most powerful official you have ever seen would have to depend on luck to meet him. You might not even have the chance to meet him in your entire life. Do Qiong helped to explain. In fact, he didn't know in the past. The officials in the capital were too far away for him. It was as if he didn't live in the same world. Now there were more newspapers. There was a detailed introduction of the official positions in the newspaper, including their ranks and functions. Those who didn't buy the newspaper would ask others to help them copy it. Those who could read would take it out and read it by themselves. Those who couldn't read would find someone to read it. Then they would memorize it. When they were chatting with others, they would have something to talk about. Today they could talk about it with people who didn't know. It seemed very knowledgeable. The old man raised his head and thought about it. He sighed. So it's because they have a good father. Old sir, you are wrong. But it's also true. Without a good father, they can't be born. But our feelings for them definitely have nothing to do with their father. To say something disrespectful, if their father dies, we should live our lives. But if they die one day, sigh, I don't dare to think about it. I really don't dare to think about it. Do Cheong patted the old man's shoulder and said with a fatherly look, Grandpa, it's gone. The meat is gone. The old man's grandson actually ate up the whole bowl of wontons in a while, even drinking up the soup. He raised his head and said to his grandpa. It seemed that he wanted to eat more. Little guy, don't eat anymore. If you eat more, your stomach will burst. Lil ate. Do you have any dried fruits? Give some to the little guy and let him grind his teeth. Do Cheong knew that the little guy was addicted to eating and ate so fast that he didn't feel full for a while. But after a while he would feel full. Noodles and meat were digested faster than rice, but there was still time. It was better to eat some dried fruits. No dried fruits, but there are fresh fruits. Last year, the Sidong temple helped to cultivate the former apples. My master planted a batch of them and kept them until now. They haven't gone bad. Give some to him. Lil Eight's attitude to the old man and his grandson was also good. He treated them as people of the Tang Empire, and also as people who came back to their parents' home for the first time. He wanted to let them feel the warmth of home as much as possible. So he ran back to the house and took out an apple and a plate of boiled fava beans. These were his snacks. He put them in front of the child and the old man. The fava beans were used to drink wine. The old man was very embarrassed. He had taken advantage of others today. He raised his eyebrows and asked Do Cheong, Little brother, how much is today's food worth? It's not worth much. Just like what the old man said to the little guy just now, when he is successful, he can help others. We're going back to Ijo, so we can take care of each other. Lil 8, rent a mule cart from your stall. We'll send you home directly. Our mules are also tired. Let them rest and give them a ride. Do Cheong decided to be a good person to the end. This time, they had made a lot of money, so it didn't matter if they spent some money. The little guy didn't care about the adult's business. He took the apple and took a big bite, eating it happily. The old man raised the sleeve of his coarse linen clothes to wipe the tears from the corners of his eyes. He drank 2 mouthfuls of wine, and was silent for a while. At this moment, an eagle cry sounded in the sky, attracting everyone's attention. Shuiyan. Someone cried out in surprise. Why is Shuiyan coming out at this time? As soon as the voice fell, the ground began to tremble, followed by the sound of horse hooves. A large group of soldiers and horses appeared in the direction of Ijo City. The people on the horses all looked serious. In front of the horses was a flag with the word Thai written on it. Everyone stopped what they were doing and watched in shock as the cavalry troop rumbled past. After a long time, the old man patted his chest and said, I thought they were here to kill people. How scary. Do Cheong took a deep breath and said, I think they are here to kill people, but not us. I haven't seen anyone along the way who should be killed. Why are they even sending Shuiyan and the Tibetan Underground Cavalry Battalion? I think there are people from Duoshire hiding somewhere nearby. Otherwise, they wouldn't send General Shuiyan out. Another person guessed. That beautiful white eagle is a general? The child asked excitedly. His name is Shuiyan, a general of the Tang Empire. He's very powerful. Other eagles can't beat him. As long as he's in the sky, he's the absolute ruler. Lil 8 introduced him with a smile. The old man thought a lot and asked, Are they going to attack the troops that are transporting goods over there? I have something to tell the people in charge. There's something else in their troop. It's very powerful. Who can help me find it? Sir, you're not lying? Are you telling the truth? Do Cheong didn't expect this old man to have intelligence. Normally, he wouldn't bother Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, but it was easy to get military intelligence. He could see it at any time. After asking and seeing the old man's confident look, Do Cheong quickly ordered Lil 8, set up the carriage for us. Leave my mule here first. We'll leave right away. Lil 8 nodded nervously and said, Okay, I'll be right away. I still have horses here. I'll look after your things. Let's go. Not long after, Do Cheong and the other two left the goods and the mule. Each of them rode a horse and guarded the mule carriage. They carried the grandmother and grandson to Ijo City at the fastest speed. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.